Just because you love the salt? Yeah.
Oh.
I hear they have very large salt mines in Poland, so... Hi everyone, this is Matt. Welcome to the Real Gamerscore podcast. This week I'm joined by Cameron.
Hello!
And Alex.
That's me.
Here at Real Gamerscore, we like to discuss all things Xbox, achievements, and how to semiconduct a live stream. This week we take a look back at some epic games of our past, run some rings around Halos, and we won't be profitable for the next 6 years. But first, here's the song of the week.
Here come that new tech, he come climbing up quickly. He got all the cheap games he used, console commands he got to pay for 1K. Got to be a joker, he play all through the day. He's a cheater, he'll score over me.
So I've heard this before. Alex is probably the only person in this call that hasn't.
I've heard the song before, but I can't place it straight away. Sadly, it's one of those where you're going to tell me what it is, and I'll think I should have got that.
Oh, mate, you're going to kick yourself.
Yes, I know that. I just don't know what it is.
Cameron, let me know when the song's done, because there's the for those who don't know that the Twitch is on a delay. So,
oh, I've got it.
Yeah,
with that bit. Now the rest of it's played. I've got it.
All right, Alex, do you want to do the honors?
Well, it's Come Together from the Beatles.
Yay.
Oh, of course it fucking is. So yeah, Tarragon is apparently feeling inspired at the moment, and has decided that he's going to write a couple of songs for us for this and maybe next week. But yeah, congratulations, good job. Nice easy one to start us off.
I just find it so funny that he decides to do a Beatles song the exact same week I decide to start the Beatles rock band.
Well,
of course.
It's funny, actually, because I was talking to him about that, and the fact that actually the very first song that we did for IGS was a Beatles song as well.
What was the very first song?
I think it was Drive. I think it was Drive My Car. I think was the first one.
That's a tune.
Yeah, it's a great one. It was a great, and also did actually surprisingly good lyrics for it too. I think when Beatles are showing up again. I think we did Across the Universe a few weeks back as well. I'm a big fan of the Beatles, so. I might steal some of those for some upcoming songs.
Definitely.
All right. Well, to our one audience listener, Charlotte, shout out to you. Thank you for joining us. Cameron, if you want to get on the actually no, you don't get on the Discord. I'll do it to tweet everyone because otherwise you'll dox everything.
I've got one screen set up that I'm not allowed to touch. That's all I've got to remember.
Don't press the button.
We'll see.
You don't know how fiddly this was to actually get video working through. So I'll explain the scenes behind the camera. Yeah, so Skype is what we usually use, and I think the last 3 or 4 weeks, me and Matt have had that many issues where there's been like 10-second dropouts, and then I'm just trying to fill in the blanks in the conversation after, and I've got no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I've had to edit around quite a few of them, but you probably noticed a couple at least because we have had a lot of technical issues with Skype.
So I kind of just went this week, all right, let's mess around with Discord and see if we can make something work a little bit better. And I mean, this is probably going to be our first full test of it. That's why I'm a bit interested to see how it goes. We'll have to work something out around Song of the Week. I'm sure we'll figure out something, but Just to give you an idea, though, basically I could not find a program that clips it straight into Streamlabs, so I had to crop a section of my screen out for each individual person and mess around with that. So hopefully it looks okay at the moment. I'm sure I'll tweak and change it as time goes on, but I think for a first episode we're on to a good visual start.
Yeah, so far so good. I mean, the audio, we'll see how it comes out, and I'll get feedback from our fan after the show, because I normally try to get as much feedback as I can. But let's get straight into it then. Discord.
I was going to say.
Sorry, yes,
and
Darren,
and new mic.
Yes, and so yes, I should say we'll talk about a bit about that when we get to the Patreon part.
Yeah, cool.
So our Discord, discord.io/realgamerscore. It's our big chat room where you can talk to us about video games, about kind of what's happening in your life. We have a serious chat. We've got a silly chat. We've got a lot of memes. We do competitions, looking for group stuff. If you're trying to find someone to play games with, it's absolutely fantastic to interact with us and our community. And it's actually what we're using to record to run the video chat as well. So it is absolutely invaluable. So if you want to join us on there, like I said, discord.io/realgamerscore. We're a very welcoming community, and we always love getting new people.
And then it also allows me to do this.
Yeah, again, just ignore him. It's fine. It's. I really wish I could just. But the problem is that now that I've handed control of the show over to Cameron on the technical sense, he can just mute us at any point or just completely fuck with it, and I can't just. Yeah. Again, I've lost the editing power if you're watching this live, but it is what it is.
His next step is going to be to make a sort of deep fake of us for the other quarter of the screen.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, don't give me ideas. That's the worst thing you want to do.
Wow. In order to make these things possible, we've got a Patreon, patreon.com/realgamerscore, which is basically a place where you can give us some money to help us run server costs, do live shows, competitions, and most recently, getting Cameron a new mic, because he sounded like shit, as I was told by numerous people over the last couple of weeks. So we decided we had to do something about that, raided the Patreon stores, and got him a brand new mic. And he sounds... I mean, he still doesn't sound great, but I mean, that's more just him as a person rather than the actual technology.
Thanks.
Can't blame it for everything.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
But yeah, again, thank you. We want to thank all of our Patreons so much. We really, really appreciate everything they do for us. And actually, I want to shout out a couple of our new Patrons. Again, the ones that have Discords, so there is also a Discord channel for our Patrons. So once you join that, it links it up so I can see what Patreon name is. Oh, sorry, your Discord name is, and I can give you a shout out. But I don't want to dox you completely. So I'll just say we got 2 new Patrons over the last month. We've got Makobi, who I believe sent me a friend request on True Achievements the other day. So welcome to the fold. And Joel, I've got your last name here, but I don't want to read it out. But Joel, you know who you are. Thank you very much. We really, really appreciate it. And I thought I'd also spend, like I promised last week, a great time to announce our winner of the last Patreon contest. So what we do for Patreon is all our Patrons get a number of entries into winning a free ID at Xbox game of their choice. How you get that game is I read your name out, and then you go and bother Kirby for the next 2 to 3 months, but we're away from him to finally get back to you and actually send you what you asked for.
The easy part is getting your name called out. The hard part is getting him to follow through on the promise.
Exactly. But don't worry. If he doesn't get back to you, if you come to me, I will try and expedite the process, but I can make no promises. But without any further ado, our winner for this month is Cavalier07. Congratulations, mate.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah. Make sure you pick a good game or a bad game. You know, like I'm a big proponent of terrible fucking ID games. The good thing about the competition is it allows you to play shit that you wouldn't feel embarrassed paying for.
How much is Drivers Essentials again?
Yeah, it's a good like $60, I think.
I don't know if it's gone down. That was a okay game.
Man, maybe I should do that for my 1.6.
You know what? The biggest problem I have with that game is that you can't use the steering wheel for it.
Oh well,
Which seems like a massive defeat.
The whole point of the whole thing is that you learning how to drive, right? Like, why can't you use the steering wheel?
Because they want you to use a controller. Because that's what you do in a real life scenario. Yeah.
I mean, look, if I could drive my car with my controller, I probably would. I mean, that sounds logical.
I mean, a few trees will be taken out in the process, but I'm sure that's all in the learning, eh?
I mean, it'll be a hell of a lot easier to Toko drift on a controller than it is on an actual car. I'll just say that.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
We've also got our famous Real Gamerscore Word Challenge, which is paid for by our Patrons. Thank you. Which, if you don't know, is basically a game where Kirby comes up with a game, doesn't tell anyone, and puts it into a bot with a GIF. And then he gives us one clue each week of what that game might be. And our community members need to go to the Patreon channel Word Challenge and guess a game. Guess the title of the game. And if you get it right, it'll pop up the GIF and you'll win $10. And if we don't get it until next week, it increases by another 10 to 20 and then 30 and 40, and we get new clues each week. I will just warn
advice for all of you on the Word Challenge. The advice is, it's an evil genius. Stay away. Whatever you do, do not visit the Real Gamerscore Discord and enter the Word Challenge channel because you will hate Kirby for the rest of time.
Yeah, Alex is not wrong. Kirby is notorious for giving the least helpful hints of all time. So, for example, last one that we had was Hannah Montana, the game. The first clue was that it was a female protagonist, and the second clue was just the number 41. Now, we have gone through iterations of this where it's been the 41st, it's been a certain number of completion, a certain number of score on Metacritic. No, Montana is the 41st state of the United States. So that's the caliber of clue that we're talking about here. So we do have a new one. Again, Cameron and I don't know what it is. Kirby is the only person. And the clue that he has given us is that it is a non-backwards compatible game.
So it's really narrowing it down for our...
Really narrowing it down. I'm going to dig through my collection and try and find things that I haven't finished that might work in there, but it's a big fucking list. So good luck, and see if you can win that $10. But also don't run away and do it immediately, because I don't know if Kirby's actually set it up correctly yet. He hasn't confirmed. He just gave us the clue. But whatever, it's fine. Most people who hear this will probably have it on Tuesday. Also, just as a technical thing, if you're going to put a guess in, there is slow mode, so you can't spam guesses, and only put one guess at a time. Because if you put multiple in a single message, it won't be able to read it. It has to be the exact title in a single message. But otherwise, you'll get it easy, I'm sure. I'm sure Jay Black is probably already frothing at the mouth with ideas of what it could be.
Exactly.
All right. Well, with the housekeeping out of the way, let's move on to the news. Cameron, what have you found for us this week?
All right. So where to begin? Do you want to talk about our Epic losses for Epic?
Yeah. So Epic Game Studio, as they're well known for Fortnite and a couple other games, Gears of War, Unreal Tournament, there's a couple other, but the Unreal Engine created, but most recently basically known for Fortnite and the Epic Store, which was set up as a competitor for Steam. Now, there's been a lot of talk around Epic basically cutting a lot of deals to get exclusives on the platform, also taking a smaller cut from developers to be on the storefront, as opposed to, I was think they were doing like a 12% cut as opposed to like the 30% that Steam was originally offering.
Yeah, Steam's is like crazy compared to what Epic were offering.
And now Steam has got slightly more competitive based on the number of sales made on games and stuff like that. But again, Epic is still pushing really hard to be the destination for gamers on the PC, especially with, I guess the thinking was, well, they probably needed the client to download to play Fortnite anyway, and Fortnite is the most popular game in the world, so why not try and sell in some other games while you're at it? Which makes sense. I mean, Epic, have a pedigree of having a lot of large titles. They have the Unreal Engine. They're involved in a lot of game development and publishing, so it's not surprising for them to have a storefront. What is surprising is that due to some of the court documents that have come out between their legal battle between them and Apple, we've got some financials on how much they've been spending and losing on getting these exclusives to try and become profitable, or to try and push out the competition, as the case may be. So apparently they've had over 100 exclusivity deals, and they've been giving free games away each week, which is crazy. And it's like I log on and usually grab the free game when I remember, and I'll probably never play it, but it's free, and I have it on my computer for whenever I want to play it at some stage, I suppose. But apparently, so basically the way that this works is that they also have exclusive deals where they will pay developers a certain amount as a sort of minimum guarantee to say, hey, we'll pay you this amount of money to make sure that you are, no matter what happens, if you sell this game, if you don't sell any copies, you're still profitable or close to it. So, the instead of having to sell 100,000 games, you got to sell maybe 20,000 to basically break even. Apparently, they've spent $444 million on these.
Which is just crazy.
Yeah, so they
well, it's not as crazy as it sounds to an extent, because they've got a couple of angles with this store, which is part of why they're taking this low cut argument. On the one hand, if they can get a slice of the massive PC games market in the way that Steam has done, that's obviously a money maker. Even at 12%, that's a lot better than nothing at all, and it all going to Steam. Right?
Absolutely.
But on the other hand, like you said, they've got Fortnite. It's the biggest money-making machine in gaming. Well, the second biggest, actually, because the biggest money-making machine in gaming is probably the Apple App Store, which gets an automatic 30% cut, just like Steam, of anything that's bought through an iPhone. So Epic's real game here isn't even winning a slice of the market. It's trying to pressure Apple and Valve into reducing the cuts on their platforms so that when Epic makes money, they get to keep more of it. And that would be such a winner that it's worth the stuff they're spending.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what the legal battle happened in the first place, right?
Them into. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, yeah, so you're right. Like, again, it's not as cut and dry as they're spending a shitload of money and they're losing it all, right? Like, there's definitely a market share angle to this. There's a, thoughts, there's a hearts and minds, there's a goodwill associated with it. And there's the same thing that Microsoft is doing with Game Pass in terms of getting people into an ecosystem, getting them used to being part of this, having their friends over there, tying their libraries to this, and then slowly they just become integrated and become used to buying things on the Epic Store as opposed to Steam because that's where the deals are. And they, I got the last two games of the series for free here. I might as well buy the third one so I have the complete collection all in one place.
And some of the freebies they've been giving away are like decent titles. These aren't just like...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, again, they do one every week, and there has been some quality stuff. And I know, like, over Christmas and stuff, they're doing, like, one a day. Like, they did it for, like a month. Like, it was crazy. But I was reading through this article, and they said that basically they lost $181 million on the Epic's Game Store in 2019 alone, and a projected $273 million last year. And they're probably going to have another $139 million lost this year. So that's close. That's $600 million that they need to recoup before they become profitable. And basically, Apple has basically said to pointed out in these cases that Epic doesn't plan to become profitable with with the store until 2027. So 6 more years of this.
I'm just trying to... It makes me think of YouTube's one, because YouTube only just recently, like in the last few years, became profitable, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, there is something to be said for tech companies being loss leaders, right? Like, I mean, like most of these tech companies, I mean, it was like Twitter basically doesn't make any money. Facebook does, but again, it's kind of unique in that regard. It was like Uber doesn't technically make any money. It's all about like perceived value and IPOs and things like that. Like, again, there's a lot of financial stuff that's way above my head in terms of how this shit works.
Marketing talk.
It's even beyond that. I mean, like, again, like marketing. The shit that I do is smoke and mirrors, right? But it's like even beyond that. Like it's predictive analytics and financial bullshit and just crazy amount. But Epic, have said that they are basically saying that they expect to see the profits in 2023, as Alex mentioned. It probably ends up being somewhere in the middle, right? Because Apple are going to try and paint this as the most ridiculous thing ever, and Epic are going to try and be relatively optimistic about it.
The reason this is all coming out is this court case, because basically Epic are arguing that Apple's cut of the App Store is essentially extortionate. They accept that the amount that, say, Microsoft and Sony charge for their console platforms are justified because of all the console development and stuff, but they claim that Apple's 30% is just totally unjustified and it's a walled garden, etc., etc. So Apple are coming back and saying, well, no decent-sized player has ever made a profit on less. And Epic is saying, well, we're charging 12%. Apple are saying, but you're losing money. So this is where the argument goes. Apple claim that the 30% is necessary. Obviously, it's not quite necessary. There is some profit in there. But, they claim that it's basically as low as they can sensibly go as a business. Epic say it's not. If Epic were making money, they would have a far better case here.
Yeah, exactly, right? That it would prove the point, and Apple really wouldn't have a leg to stand on. But I guess, yeah, Epic's argument is that, they are still a relatively new platform, and that they went into this knowing they were going to be losing money up front, right? Like they spent the big dollars because they had all this funding from Fortnite to be able to say, absolutely, we're going to go and pick up all these exclusives. We're going to spend, what was it, like $10 million for a 1-year exclusive on Control, which is a great game, but man, that is a lot of money to be throwing down for a single game for a year. And again, this is only PC exclusivity, where a lot of, again, all this console stuff, like you mentioned, the console space is completely separate from this. So you're looking at a market of a market. Yeah, it does seem pretty ridiculous. But obviously, the reason they're going up against Apple is because of Fortnite and because of the in-game transactions and Apple taking a cut of those because Fortnite is a free-to-play game. And so, being the biggest game on the internet, or one of, is that you're going to be making shitloads of money, and sharing that with anyone is going to be something you don't want to do. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. Have you guys used the Epic Store at all?
I've downloaded free games now.
Yeah, which I think is pretty much the answer I've gotten from most people when I've talked about this.
Yeah, I haven't really touched it myself. I'm pretty much to the viewpoint of...
New to PC gaming, I would.
Sorry, what was that?
If I were new to gaming, then I would. I'd actually recommend it to somebody new to gaming. So for me, I've got a massive Xbox backlog. I've got Ultimate, which obviously gives me access to all the Xbox Game Pass stuff on PC. And I've also got a Steam backlog from my days when I was primarily a Steam gamer. So those are backlogs, apart from Game Pass, but my two actual backlogs are things that I've chosen to buy for myself. So they're games I would love to play, more so than the brilliant freebies that Epic gives out, right? So personally,
it's funny how that works.
Decide to go on a PC gaming stint, I'm either going to play some Game Pass stuff or some of my backlog. If I didn't have those, Epic would be the best deal in PC gaming. Even better than Game Pass for PC, because they're all free.
Yeah, see, that was going to be what I was going to say, is that I would have agreed with you until Xbox for PC, Game Pass for PC basically came out and had most of what I was interested in anyway. But you're right. I think that, again, our perspective is probably a little different from a lot of others in terms that we have big investments in ecosystems already across multiple ecosystems, like you've said, and that we have a bit of a vested interest in playing through our backlog for achievement related and for sort of gaming content reasons and being part of the zeitgeists, I guess. Whereas, your standard gamer, getting onto the Epic Store and just being part of that and just getting free games and using that as your go-to, and not getting these exclusives earlier of things that you might be interested in, and if it matters to you, supporting developers more because they get a larger cut. I can definitely see the benefits. I think the other problem, though, is that, on the other hand, Epic has really not done much in terms of actually innovating their storefront as a product. I mean, there's a lot of talk about the money they give back to developers and the exclusivities and all that sort of stuff that happens on the background. But from a technical perspective, if you look at their, I remember when the Epic Store came out and it was missing a shitload of features, and they put up that roadmap. That roadmap has not changed a lot, and a lot of those features are very far down. I remember when it came out, they were missing currencies for lots of different countries. There was a problem with the search functionality. Curation was a problem. They had all kinds of stuff that they really just, again, they have been adding to it, but it really hasn't felt like a priority in a way that I really think it should be if they're going to be making this big push on it. Yeah. But I mean, who knows? We don't know what happens behind the curtain. There might be reasons for that. There might be development issues. There might be monetary reasons. There might be legal reasons. Who knows? But it just doesn't seem like they're putting their best foot forward in a public-facing way on that front. If you want to entice people, like you said, the new game is to get them on board.
It's an interesting illustration, though, of just how hard it is to break into this stuff. And Microsoft have the same challenge with Game Pass for PC. Well, let's face it, they're basically out of the PC storefront race.
For the most part.
And trying to break into the Japanese console market, stuff like that. It is hard.
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft had this issue when they brought out the Xbox in the first place, right? Was it originally the game development was dominated by Japanese companies. You had Sega versus Nintendo, and then you had Sony versus Nintendo, and then you had Sony versus Nintendo, and then you had Microsoft come in saying, "Oh, well, we're going to do the Direct Xbox," which just became the Xbox, and everyone was like, "This is never going to work. Why would you buy this over a PC?" And they came out with Halo and a few good games, and the original Xbox did relatively well, and then the 360 was, in my opinion, probably the best console ever made, which I know I'll get flack for, but I still think it's probably up there.
What?
PS2 is a close
I'd put the DS above. I think
I do like the DS. The DS is a fantastic console. But again, I'll get into that topic of argument on a show when we have less stuff to talk about. Because
okay.
But I think that you're right. Getting into these walled gardens is really difficult, and the barrier to entry is so high, intentionally so, right? They make it difficult because you don't want competition. You don't want the Epics coming in and undercutting your, basically saying, "Hey, we'll give you the same game, and we'll give you a bunch of money to put it on our platform for a year, and when you do sell them, you only need to give us half the cut you're giving the other guys." That's a really I mean. In economics, they talk about perfect competition, right? If everyone's selling exactly the same product, you have to sell it at the market price. yeah.
I was going to say the only negativity is that where you had those ones that already had made some kind of a agreement with Steam and then went back on it. That was the only time where it was a negative with garnering that bad press.
Exactly, and again, that's basically disappeared, right? Like, when was the last time you heard about a game that happening? That pretty much only happened during the transition period of the first, 6 months to a year.
18 months ago?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Like, again, it's kind of thing, like, I'd actually completely forgotten about it till you mentioned it. But you're right, like, there was a huge amount of controversy about, stuff that was going to be coming out for both. It was kickstarted to come out to Steam, and then they got an exclusive contract with Epic, and they're like, oh, yeah, well, you'll get it a year later, or we'll change you over and stuff. And obviously, there was the thing around, like, well, like, it sucks, but, like, it's not like they promised an Xbox version and then they're only bringing it out on PlayStation. Like, you don't need to have another console to play a game on the Epic Store as opposed to the Steam Store. It's just another executable downloaded for free. Like, the barrier to entry on that is much, much lower. Which is, again, I think is also... It's good for Epic to get into it, but it's also hard for Epic to gain a foothold because there isn't really a lot of investment in Epic. Because, the people have these Steam libraries, and new gamers are like, they're being pushed into, like, I would probably say the majority of new gamers are going to be going console side anyway, right? That's the more easily accessible, especially in today's environment with the price of GPUs and building PCs. I was going to say, if you're going PC though, like, this is just my personal opinion, you're better off just going, like, getting Humble Bundles and getting libraries like that way rather than, I guess both clients to get the freebies, but... Yeah, well, I guess the problem is that, like, again, like the streaming video network, now everyone has their own platform, right?
Yeah. Like,
Ubisoft has got their own one. Epic obviously got their one. Steam. There was a couple others that I can't remember. You've got, like, the GeForce stuff. And, like, GeForce NVIDIA, they had their GeForce Experience store. I mean, even, like, Discord used to have a game store. They've shut it down because no one used it. But, like... Everyone was trying to get in on that sort of gaming, game buying thing.
I never even heard of the Discord one until like 2 weeks ago. So.
Yeah, didn't go super well for them.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else we want to add on that one before we move on?
No, not really anything for me. What about you, Alex?
No.
Cool. All right. So next article, just a little bit more about Cyberpunk. So
that's that big upcoming release, right? That's the one that's coming out at the end of this year.
The final one, yeah, like when they patch it and it works, and
yeah, that's what I mean. Like that's because at the moment it's early access, right? They came out and said that it was definitely definitely like in pre-alpha. Like don't get your hopes up. Definitely not complete.
Yeah. So this is. I feel like this is a non-story that I just wanted to put in here because it's good for a little bit of a giggle.
Just because you love the salt, yeah.
Oh.
I hear they have very large salt mines in Poland, so...
CD Projekt Red CEO Adam Kaczynski... Okay, yeah, cool. Believes that Cyberpunk 2077 could sell for years to come and says the studio is committed to fixing the numerous issues with the action RPG. This game released... We're getting up on 6 months next month.
Yep, you're right, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wait, no, it got delayed till December, didn't it?
Yeah, you're right. Early
sorry.
December, yeah.
Sorry, all right. So 5 months next month.
Sure.
I completely forgot about the month delay. Sorry, what was that?
I don't think there's too much, because we've done Cyberpunk a whole bunch already in these podcasts. But essentially, they put a massive investment in. They've made a game which most of the reviewers agreed, if you've got a good, relatively unbuggy experience, it is actually a brilliant experience.
Well, at least like a pretty good experience. I mean, like I didn't see a lot of people saying it would have been a 10 out of 10 without the bugs, but again, like a competent, like well-made, well-designed or well thought out, I guess, like Deus Ex style open world game, right? So like again, like
I think it was reviewing in the 90s.
Sure, I would say probably more like 8 out of 10 rather than 10, but sure, yeah, I can see what you mean.
Because that's where they were putting it. I've not played it. So I don't really have a view myself on how much I would enjoy it. But the reviewers who initially went in seemed to love it to bits, albeit they went in on reviewer-grade PCs, and that's a big difference. Right? It's been a train wreck on the original Xbox One, by all accounts. But the core of the game there is something great. On the other hand, what people have in their hands and the experience they're having on their lesser machines, if you like, i.e. the target machines, is pretty rubbish. And there's still going to be the potential for some of those people to demand refunds if it isn't eventually fixed. So they want to fix it to stave off that. They want to fix it to hopefully make more sales. They want to fix it to turn around the public opinion. It's not surprising that they're at least talking a good game about getting the bugs done and getting it in a workable state and trying to move on from there. And it has been done with the likes of No Man's Sky is obviously the one everyone points to. But, it's not like... They have a lot less work to do, frankly. The core of Cyberpunk sounds like it's good.
Yeah, I guess I've heard the No Man's Sky comparison quite a bit, and it does definitely ring true in terms of the development woes and the zeitgeist, the hype that was around the stuff, and kind of the disappointment. But I think the one key difference between those games is that No Man's Sky is a game basically without narrative. It is a fully open world emergent experience that you can play as much or as little as you want. It's about building your own bases. It's about exploring and doing your own kind of thing and just kind of making your own fun. Whereas this is a very narrative-driven game. Obviously, there is the open world element. But people are going to put, 20, 30 hours into this game, complete it, and be done with it. And they will have played a much lesser experience than, say, when the official next-gen version of it comes out at the end of this year, or if it even does. And there won't be that groundswell. Like, I think it's going to be like people talked about, like No Man's Sky, them fixing it, being like, oh well, they've shut the barn door after the horse is bolted, and that wasn't exactly true because people did come back from it, and it did review very well, and like it was a whole redemption arc. Whereas I just don't know if they're going to get that same thing here, because I just don't think they're going to get the groundswell of goodwill and actual interest in playing this. It's essentially the same game, but less shit, to be honest. Like, at the end of the day, right? The only way they're going to do it is, and this is kind of why they're talking about this, is while they get through the numerous issues, they're going to be talking about new content, reasons to get people back. And so this is where you look at, okay, well, they had their roadmap where it was like, okay, well, we got patches 1.1 and 1.2 out, which was their big sort of, their big bug fixes. They want to get back on the Sony storefront, which they still aren't, which is crazy. Like having a game that's been pulled from the Sony storefront is something I've never seen before.
That was ridiculous because the game is clearly less buggy than some of the ones that have stayed on the storefronts.
Absolutely, and again, I believe there was some politicking there around the refund policy was more the problem, in that Sony does not have a robust refund system the same way that Steam or Xbox do. And that basically CD Projekt Red saying, go to Sony for refunds, and Sony was like, no, we're not putting up with that. Like,
Just to talk about my own experiences though, like even an hour into my own, like I've only really played an hour, but that hour I had a game breaking issue where the door just wouldn't open for me to get out of a certain mission. And
it's like, what are you gonna do?
The problem is this is a RPG. This is a world that you want to fully immerse yourself in. If you're running into issues that are destroying that immersion, then until that's fixed, to my view, it's not really worth playing.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at as well, right? It's like because I own a copy of this game, right? Like I have it sitting on my backlog, but I'm just not going to play it until either A, they fix all the issues, or B, more likely, they basically come up with the next gen version that has all the fixes included and it runs better. Or C, I wait for the Game of the Year edition, which I can't wait for them to try and put that on the box. And it just has all the DLC and stuff in it, and I play it like 3 years later once I've made a bit more of a dent in my backlog. Like, it doesn't really...
That's always been my plan. I didn't buy the game because I was never going to play it at release because I always thought it would be buggy. But I didn't think it would be this buggy.
Right, I thought it would be
Fallout and Skyrim buggy.
Sure. And I think that that was... Like, we've become cynics over the last few years, right? Like, we've seen so many games come out in less than stellar forms. I mean, like, after Fallout 76, like, I don't trust games on launch day at all. And I didn't before then, but each case like this makes me more and more wary of, pre-ordering, which I haven't done for years, or, getting things day one, or not waiting for patches, not waiting for reviews. Again, I don't take so much stock in reviews in my purchasing because I tend to buy games when they're on sale, and I buy things. I'm mostly focused on my backlog, so I'm probably not the best person to talk about this. But there's no harm in waiting unless you absolutely have to be part of the zeitgeist and like the conversation happening around the game. Like if you're on like a podcast that reviews, a new game every week, or if you're talking about the new releases, then that's one thing. But like, who cares? Who cares if you play Cyberpunk a year from after it comes out? Like, what have you missed? If any, you're always going to get a better experience playing a game later. I mean, unless the server's been shut down, but that's another thing.
I wouldn't go with always. I think we're seeing this a lot with Game Pass, actually, with things that launch into Game Pass and where people dive in and they have good experiences. I'll dive in straight after, because it's great to be part of that conversation. It's one of the things I love about Game Pass, beyond just the free games. It's the conversation and community you get around it. It's for me that I won't pre-order something and I won't start playing it until I know someone else who has, basically.
And so you get being part of the second wave is basically getting the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I'll talk about one of the games that Cameron recommended that kind of got me into, like, I grabbed on Game Pass this week as well, where it has that same kind of feeling to it. It's something that I don't know if I would have played unless he'd recommended it so highly now that it's in Game Pass.
I'm curious whether you've played Narita Boy, actually, because that's one I've looked at, and one that sounds like it might be up your street as well.
I have. It's quite enjoyable, but I just haven't really invested. I think I invested like 2 hours into it. But it is a great game. I just need to go back to it.
I'm happy for Cameron to always be the canary in the coal mine for us.
I mean, we know I'm never going to reach 90% completions, or even 80 or 70 or 60 or 50% completion.
Mate, I'm surprised you're in double digits after the whole Hall of Fame thing.
Yeah, that's a miracle in itself.
Yeah. Nice. I can see your Xbox swag in the background there, by the way. Just I'll point that out. Also, it's a very nice sweatshirt you're wearing.
Where's yours?
Where's my? I mean, like I said before the show. I mean, my accomplishments speak for themselves. I don't really need to tell everyone that I'm going to hit 1.6 million Gamerscore by the end of this month.
You should have two. You should have two of these hoodies.
I should have two of those hoodies. I should also have two of the. I don't know if I'm getting two of the hoodies, but I should definitely have two of the trophies.
Do you have a trophy yet?
I do not have the trophy. However, I will bring it on the show the first time it shows up.
All right, cool. All
right, we'll compare it. We'll compare it with the old one, and you can see how my OCD was kicking in.
I'm not even sure if people can see. There we go. It's right there, right underneath.
Oh yikes! That's the trophy. I'd assumed it was a thing you'd put on your screen or something.
He's that shameless. He's just put it there.
I'd seen that. I'd thought watermark.
No, absolutely not. I mean, it's hella 3D.
It's in the top corner as well.
Yeah, it's right. It does look like he's basically come straight out of a sponsored stream #ad.
Yes, that's exactly the point. Xbox, I'm always available for sponsorship. Doesn't matter what.
You need a 3D printed real Gamerscore sort of thing. You can put in the corner.
We actually that's
raise the Patreon money.
Yeah, exactly. We'll put it as a stretch goal for the Patreon to get a 3D printer. The most wasteful fucking stretch goal of all time.
Well, no, you wouldn't buy a 3D printer. You'd go to a 3D printing contractor company. I know.
Actually, that's true.
Yeah. My brother-in-law runs
saying you don't want a 3D printer?
I see where this is going. Okay, yeah.
No, it doesn't make sense for you to ship it from the UK. But I'm just saying they're out there, all right. And actually they're doing a bunch.
I don't care about the 3D printer, but if somebody can start manufacturing of the legacy adapters for Rock Band 4 again, that would be amazing.
I'm pretty sure those are proprietary, but good luck.
Yeah.
I mean, $300 on eBay at its cheapest.
Your best bet is for Tarragon to eventually reverse engineer it.
I mean, Tarragon is one day. Tarragon is going to invent Skynet, but it's going to be a Skynet that plays some bitching fucking Guitar Hero. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah, Tarragon's Skynet is not going to take over the world. It's just going to full combo through the fire and flame.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It'll hack the Gibson through playing Jordan without missing a single note. All right. Let's move on to our last story here, which makes me laugh but also makes me cry.
All right, do you want to take this?
Yeah, I'll run through it. So, Xbox Series X and S shortage partially caused by $1 display driver. Yeah. So,
I mean, true.
Yeah, again. So, a global shortage of a $1 display driver is causing a global crisis in the semiconductor industry, in turn creating a bottleneck for Xbox Series X and S console rollouts. So this is a story that Bloomberg ran last week, I believe. And it's just yeah, again, there's not really much there to say except that like these kind of things happen in terms of like bottlenecks and supply chains and stuff like that, especially with COVID and the state of the world. But apparently, when the manufacturers realized that there was going to be slowdown in terms of the supply stuff, a bunch of companies bought all these up, draining the supply for the stuff. And again, these use these semiconductors for all kinds of stuff. In terms of consumer electronics.
Yeah. So this particular one controls the illumination on a screen, namely liquid crystal displays, and is pretty much in everything from TVs to cars using screen technology. Pretty much anything with screen. And because everyone's been locked inside and been upgrading their rigs and buying new TVs, myself included, over COVID, just to stave away the horrible outside. There's been a bit of a run on them, which is kind of fucked everything in terms of consumer electronics going forward.
But I feel like, although it's important, it's also mostly a clickbait article because
sure.
It was news in March last year. I remember I was sitting in March last year thinking, "Wow, there's a shortage coming of semiconductors. I wish Microsoft would take a big wad of money and just buy a mine or something." That was March 2020. I was thinking that, and I'm sure
as soon as COVID hit, exactly. And I believe we probably even talked about it. I think, yeah,
that'll be exactly when these businesses, some of them actually did go buy a mine, or they bought up the global, supply of semiconductors. I sat there in an office thinking about it. They went and did it. Regardless, sort of over the course of the last year, the shortage hasn't got any better.
I think that's the problem, right? Is that it's like we've expected things to kind of slowly get back to normal, but not so much. I mean, they're kind of getting there, but it's happening a lot slower than expected. I mean, we're over a year into this now, and we're only just getting back.
And they basically announced that it's going to be into 2022 for the consoles. They're not going to, they're going to sell out through next Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, I mean, I haven't heard of a shortage like this since, like, I guess the original Wii was probably like that as well. I mean, but that was just because Nintendo doesn't know how to estimate at all. Yeah,
that's just Nintendo.
That's Nintendo being Nintendo.
You couldn't have estimated the Wii's popularity.
Sure, but I mean, again, there were shortages for ages afterwards. Like they severely underestimated. Yeah. But again, with the GameCube, there is good reason for it. You're right. I'll cut them a little bit of slack.
I'm just trying to think. Like, I honestly think this is worse. Like,
oh, it definitely is. It definitely is.
Ultimately, that's that Nintendo needed more factories. It's not that the industry doesn't have the supply capacity. All they needed to do was all they needed to do. It's like Tesla. Nintendo had the same problem that Tesla have. They needed to make more factories to make more vehicles and consoles, right? Whereas the problem that everybody has now is not just the factories. There isn't enough raw stuff to put into the factories to make things in the first place.
Yeah, that's the supply chain just breaks down on all levels basically once you have bottlenecks like this. It's like it's just nothing you can do about it. Even if you have the other $599 of the console, that $1 is just going to fuck you.
Yeah. Although I think there is something else that Microsoft can do about it, where potentially Microsoft can have an advantage over Sony, which is I really wish they would bring xCloud streaming to the Xbox One and maybe even the Xbox 360. Now, I know that we can stream our Series X and Game Pass PC games to our mobile phone on Android. They're bringing out a browser-based thing, which is not going to run well on the Xbox One. But they're bringing out a browser-based thing which will run fine on the iPhone and run fine on PC. And there's even been some shadow apps sort of leaked which will let you have a direct app for the PC. So why not the Xbox One? Imagine if Microsoft could say, when we finally start getting our Series X and PS5 exclusives, which will happen this year, you can play all of those on your Xbox One for the Game Pass Ultimate prescription.
I mean, like, realistically, actually, yeah, like, that's probably, again, the 360 is probably going further back in terms of their infrastructure and how they would actually run it. But you're right, like, the Xbox One, like, and that was part of the reason. Like, I remember when Phil Spencer was talking about, like, streaming being part of the toolbox, but not being the main play, right? Like it was, saying that, Stadia is going to do this, but Microsoft are going to have streaming as an option, but the console is always going to be the big place to play the games, and PC is obviously going to be an option as well. But you're right, like, and there's still the strange thing where I used to be able to I can stream my Xbox One to my old Xbox app, but I can't stream my Series X to it, and I can't stream either of them to my PC with the current app. So they've been doing this migration for ages, and again, it's been talks for a while, and they said, it's definitely be this year. But you're right, like there hasn't been any word about using this for the old consoles and trying to bring them up to this level. I'm wondering why. Like,
I don't believe they thought about it. You know, it's not a brilliant idea. It's just an idea that would work. You know, they must have thought.
It would depend on how much energy and resources you would have to put into to make it work, though. Is it really?
Well,
like, you're really going to get that much of a benefit at the end of the day.
Given the infrastructure of the consoles are very similar from the last gen. I mean, like obviously in terms of power and things like that, but that doesn't really matter when you're talking about cloud computing. I mean, you know, we're talking about bandwidth here for the most part. There doesn't really seem to be a reason outside of some potential legacy software that prevents them from doing this. But I mean, like, they were testing xCloud before the Series X came out anyway.
Yeah.
I understand them putting the iPhone first. I can see them saying, "We've done Android. Let's get iPhone working. Let's get PC working, and then we'll tell them that we've been working on other consoles in the background." But I think at some point this year we're going to have the big next-gen exclusives, maybe from Ubisoft or Activision or something. And when that moment hits, if you can't buy a Series X or a PS5 for love nor money, but you can play them all on Xbox, they want to be there.
Yeah, that is a great message. And to say it's like, yeah, absolutely, we've got xCloud stuff, you can play all of these games, and then you can, exactly, like it makes perfect sense. And then you tie that in with the Game Pass message for keeping them in the ecosystem for whatever one they want to play.
Yeah, like it's all these Xbox One owners who have a Game Pass subscription, and when they can buy a Series X or a PS5, there's a much bigger chance, well, let's just go for the Series X. I've got all these games for it.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't even have to pay for them. They're free, quote unquote. See, finally I can do air quotes on the video, and people can actually fucking see them.
Yes!
Rather than getting on my case about, it's not actually free, you got to pay the subscription. It's like, yes, I know, but I am.
But now you can see the air quotes.
Yeah, I'm Xbox reward pointed up the fucking wazoo. I've got years of Game Pass locked away. All right, it's free to me, damn it. All right. Anything you guys want to add on that? Because Alex is right. It is basically a clickbait story, but I figured it was good for discussion.
It's still funny at the end of the day.
I will add, back to a previous conversation. Audrey says she can hook you up with a 3D printer guy, presumably in Australia.
Oh,
so there you can get your real Gamerscore sort of logo 3D printed thing.
Oh, brilliant! All right, well, thank you for that, Charlotte.
Nice.
Thank you for that,
New
Charlotte.
Zealand. Well, that's probably close enough.
Charlotte is one of my local friends from down in Wellington, and also one of our Patreons. Thank you, who's in the chat. Absolutely, sweet. Yep, a 3D printer guy. Great. We'll get right on that. Sorry, I have not been paying much attention to the chat. I do need to get on that.
I was going to say, is the chat coming through? Because it's not coming through on here.
It is. I can see the chat, but again, there is a delay on the stream itself, and obviously we're doing the show, so I will be checking on the chat for questions and stuff like that. But
that's your responsibility because I can't.
I have an eye on it. The way I've set it up, which seems to work for people who aren't Cameron, because his screen is spoken for, is I have Discord up over most of the screen, but it's like over the left 3/4 of the screen, and then I can see the Twitch chat past it on the right, which I'd recommend. Non-Cameron presenter.
All right. Well, let's move into what we've been playing then. I think we've wrung the blood out of those stones. Alex, do you want to go first?
Sure. So, once again, I've been playing some great stuff, but recently it's been Dragon Quest XI, Valfaris, and The Messenger.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's some fantastic stuff. Again, you always bring the bangers. This is why I want you on the show all the time, because like you actually have good taste in games. Like I don't have to listen to Cameron playing his fucking trash or. Tell
them how you really feel.
Rag on Cameron about his trash. That's what you're looking forward to. That's what you save the best.
I mean, the fact that I'm scrolling through Facebook Marketplace to get every old 360 peripheral, I count them as treasure. Thank you very much.
I mean, the saying still holds true. It's very All right. So let's go into what you've been playing there, Alex.
Yeah. So Valfaris is a 2D sort of run and gun thing, a bit like Contra, I suppose, but it's been marketed as hardcore metal, bring back the difficulty, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I suspect it's probably not as hard as your actual sort of Contras and Metal Gears and that kind of stuff, which I wasn't really in that generation. I didn't really play those. But I tell you what, with me not particularly having the skill set of kicking my butt, it's one of the games I found hardest this year, but in a way that I am loving. They've got this lovely mechanic where, as you play through the levels, you pick up sort of checkpoint tokens, and you reach a checkpoint, and you have to decide: do you spend your token to make a checkpoint here, or do you keep it in your pocket?
Right.
And if you have more tokens in your pocket, you've got a bit more health, and when you get to the end of the level, you can choose to trade them in for upgrade tokens to make your guns better. So they're sort of asking you to bet on yourself. In a way I haven't really seen since Project Gotham series and MSR and stuff with the kudos system. But they're asking you to bet on yourself that I don't need to save here. I can make it to the next checkpoint. And then, of course, there's a mini-boss room, and of course it blows your head off. So, yeah, that's nice. It does have the thing I often dislike, where the sort of better you are at the game, the more upgrades you end up with, and the easier the game gets.
Yeah. Right.
I really wish more designers would find a way to flip that. But it's great because I'm good enough at the game that I think I can make it to the next checkpoint. And
that sounds really
good. What happens next?
It's that push your luck hubris that gets you every time, you know?
Exactly, and it's perfectly pitched for that. I finally finished my first playthrough. I had a massive sticking point with the final boss, which was annoying. And I'm ready for my second now, which I've got to do with fewer than 10 deaths. So there will definitely be some offlines coming. But the achievement I'm really looking forward to there, because it's got to be a one-sitting thing. You've got to make it through the entire first level with no checkpoints. So that's about 8 minutes of play without a single death, basically. And I've actually made it about 6.5 minutes in my first set of attempts, which to me is blowing my mind because that whole thing took me an hour and a half to do it the first time with checkpoints. You know, so loving Valfaris. It's definitely, like, the soundtrack is a disappointment, to be honest, because it's marketed as this metal thing. And it's just sort of, well, yeah, it's metal, but it's not great. You know, that's a bit disappointing. If it was amazing metal, that would elevate the game to the next level. You know,
is it like are you talking like electric guitars, or do they kind of go like 8-bitty? Like are they referencing back to like the old style, or is it
It's sort of 8-bitty-ish, I guess. It's more, when I'm saying it's not great, I just mean that, you know, they clearly got a composer to write it, but it's not Hans Zimmer.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Or whatever. You know. But yeah, so that's going to have niche appeal. But to the people listening to this podcast, there'll be a few. You know, The Messenger, I'm sure everybody knows. You've done The Messenger, right? It is great fun. The humour so clicks for me. And so often in snarky, fourth wall breaking games, actually, I don't get the humour. I just think it's badly written. But when it's really well written, like Sunset Overdrive and The Messenger, oh yes, I love it to bits. And I love The Messenger's humour. The races at the end of Picnic Panic were not easy. But I've done them twice now. I turned straight round and did the stack because I did not want to unlearn that and relearn that. But yeah, The Messenger, great fun. It is a 2D Metroidvania, essentially. It's sort of a hybrid kind of thing. It starts out as just a 2D side scroller, I suppose, and sort of, you know, and like an old Ninja Gaiden game or something, I don't know, and becomes more of a Metroidvania. But it's a great ride.
You kept
and the other one,
Shopkeep, didn't you?
Oh, yes. Yeah, Shopkeeper. It took me ages to realise that. So they've got all these hidden Easter eggs in it, but I love that they're not really hidden, right? Because to start, I'm the kind of person who goes in. Every single time I visit the shop, I would check the wardrobe and check the shopkeeper, because I do the playthroughs blind. So I wanted to see, is there any extra dialogue and things? But they signpost it, and there's a wonderful thing. I'm going to spoil a little tiny bit, but it's a small bit. There's a wonderful thing where you're talking to the shopkeeper and he's trying to put you off from doing stuff. You keep checking this closet and he wants you to stop. And what they do is they actually loop his dialogue to try and put you off. And normally I'd be totally against that because I'd totally fall for it after 3 repeats, right? And you just wouldn't see the content. But so what he does is he warns you. He warns you that he's going to loop the content. And then you stick through it. And then you see him complaining that you won't put off by looping the content. So pretend they're hiding things, but they're not really. The sign's there. You know,
well, it makes sense, right? Like the developers want you to see the hilarious content that they've come up with, but
exactly.
Also want to give you the thrill of discovery.
Yeah, The Messenger is awesome. It is so fun. Dragon Quest, I'm not sure about it yet. I reckon, and I don't know for sure because I've not checked, but I reckon I'm halfway through the story, and they're definitely trying to do some interesting things. So I can't give a full verdict on the game yet. So far, I'd put it in the same category as stuff like Blue Dragon, in that it is a very well done 3D JRPG. And it's not breaking the mold, But you know what? If you want a 3D JRPG, it's really good. And you have to suspend your disbelief a bunch because there's so many scenes where the stuff the character's doing doesn't actually make sense in terms of timing and placement and where the people are. Your characters and character motivations are generally good, but the actual choreography is often trashy. So you've just got to be able to suspend your disbelief. And the music, while what's there is really good, they haven't written separate music for each environment. They've just sort of got a couple of generic, not in battle songs, which I feel like is a real missed opportunity. So, like, it's not been perfect or anything. I would currently put it in with Blue Dragon, Tales of Vesperia, and sort of, yeah, you're getting a JRPG. I can see they've tried some stuff that would have made it fantastic, and they didn't have the polish and delivery on their ambitions to actually hit that next level, but I'm hoping the second half, maybe they'll put it off.
Yeah, I've got that started on my tag, put like, maybe an hour or two into it just to sort of get a feel for it. Because I've been thinking about getting into JRPGs again, and now that I've sort of slowed down my Gamerscore race as such and just kind of been experiencing longer games and taking a bit more time, like JRPG, like that Dragon Quest 11 is like I played through Dragon Quest 8 on the PlayStation 2 back in the day and like loved it, but like there is something to be said for playing a sort of very traditional JRPG. Like I had that experience going back to was it Lost Odyssey a few weeks back? Like that being that kind of game, being like, actually, you know what? Like there's a reason why I fell in love with these games as a kid, and played a lot of them as a teenager in my early Xbox career and earlier, because like it was the kind of stuff where it's like I was interested in the narratives, and like it's comfortable, right? And like I know we've moved past that, and there are a lot of quality of life stuff that these games should be included that they don't always. But there is something about going back to those types of games that just really is really appealing.
Yeah, I deliberately didn't mention Lost Odyssey because I think that's a tick above this so far.
For sure. I mean, like Lost Odyssey, to be fair, is probably my favorite JRPG of the Xbox generation, probably.
So I didn't feel that Dragon Quest XI at the moment is good enough to be compared to Lost Odyssey.
Sure, yeah.
I put it on the Blue Dragon level of games.
Which is funny actually, because they were both made by Toriyama in the art style, so it does there is actually quite a bit of crossover.
I know.
I mean, everyone does look like they have Dragon Ball Z hair and eyes. Anything else you've been playing?
Oh, so they lampshade it at one point, which is brilliant.
Of course they do.
I mean, they have to at this point, right? Like you can't do it that much without pointing some attention to it. You got to be at least somewhat self-aware.
So, are you doing a blind or are you doing the walkthrough on TA?
I'm doing it blind.
You're doing blind?
I want this year. I want to play Dragon Quest XI, FF12, probably FF10, and Octopath Traveler. So I thought I'd better get on with it.
Yeah.
The reason I picked Quest 11 first is there are literally no missables. There's not even missable content. You just play it how you want.
Hell, I didn't realize there was a walkthrough for it. Is that recent?
I'm pretty sure Valak told me there was like a guide up within.
There definitely is a walkthrough.
Oh, okay.
Because I clocked there was one and double checked there really are no missables. But yeah, I'm very much playing it blind. Affectious Donk, I think I'm just into the second half. Some big stuff has just happened, which is where I said if they'd really sold that and pulled off the stuff that I've just seen, I would have called it a fantastic game. But I feel like they didn't quite sell the story beat. Like, I wish they'd got a Brandon Sanderson in there to tell them how to really sell. That kind of stuff. But maybe there's another one coming. I will wait and see. But you can probably guess, if I've just been through the first of those moments, you can probably guess exactly where I am. But yeah, I felt like it was another of those pieces for me. Let's suspend all my disbelief. Hey, that's a brilliant thing they did. But it didn't get me.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Oh, and one more thing, they have such a sense of fun in the game. Not just, which is what lets me suspend my disbelief to an extent because I'm enjoying it. Not just stuff like lampshading or their amazing hair, but there's an optional hard mode you can turn on. No achievements for it. It's very granular, so you can choose to not be able to buy anything at shops, or you can choose to not get experience from easy monsters, so you can't just grind, or you can choose to randomly have NPCs lie to you. And the lies, I know, it's amazing. They do always tell you. Which I think is a shame, really. So they'll say something ridiculous, and then the next line will be, "Ha! Did you believe that? You must be crazier than me." So you never actually go off on a wild goose chase. But it's great just for them to get you at a moment, because some of them are vaguely plausible. It sounds like it could be a quest thing. One of them, I spoke to a guy at the beach, and he just announced he was my nemesis, basically. And he didn't just say, I'm your nemesis. He used the guy's name and everything. So you've got, for a moment, for a moment there kind of thing. And I just think that's illustrative of why I'm happy to be playing this game, despite the fact that it hasn't, for me, it hasn't yet reached greatness. I hope they pull it off, because they're trying some great stuff in the story. But basically, so far, it's just been a really good RPG. But it's happy to have fun, and that counts for a lot.
Great. No, I'll put it back on the backlog list and try and move it up a bit.
So what have you been up to?
Oh, me. Well, I've had a bit of a busy week. So I played Kato on Game Pass, both versions. For those who don't know, is a absolutely fucking adorable game where you play a little girl who has fallen out of a airship with a map, and you have the ability to basically move pieces of the map around. So you basically, when you open up your map, it's different squares with bits of environment on it. So you might have a bit that has ocean, you might have a bit that and a beach, or you might have a bit that's forest, or you might have a bit that's got like a house on it. And basically what you need to do is move these squares around on your map to actually remake the world so you can move between the points. And so it starts off being like, okay, well, this part has a beach on it, so I need to connect it with another beach to make sure that I can move between those two lands, so they have to match up. And so, go to this next piece and find another piece of the map. And sometimes it's like, okay, well, this guy's lost his sheep, so I need to go collect his sheep. And then he goes, oh, hey, you only found 3 of them. And I'm like, well, yeah, I looked in all the squares, but there isn't one there. And he says, I was like, oh, well, there's a 4th sheep, but like he only shows up like in this area that's surrounded by flowers. So what you have to do is look at the map and you say, oh, hang on a minute, there's flowers on this side of this square and on this side of this square and these ones. And so you build it around an empty spot, and suddenly the next part appears in the middle of it. And so part of it is collecting the stuff and trying to figure out where the map parts fit, but also it's talking to the NPCs, and they give you clues about puzzles around how to make these, how to situate these parts of the map to make new things appear, whether that be new NPCs, like new pieces of the map, new quests, and even like there's some secret puzzle pieces and stuff. And like it goes from like NPCs telling you vague cryptic clues to there's a part where an owl draws a circle on the ground, and you realize that you have 4 pieces of map that have a river, and it's like you have a bunch of forest pieces, and they have a river in it, but they're all curves. And so normally, you'd make a river going down, down a slope or something. But what you can actually do is make a moat around you, and suddenly the NPC will show up right in the middle of it. The only problem with it is that, like, oh, well, actually, I built the moat, and I'm on the wrong side of it. So now I need to reorganize this whole map to be able to get on the inside of it, and then rotate it to make sure that when I close the loop, I'm on the inside with the NPC so I can talk to them. Again, it's not very difficult. It doesn't really require a guide, but there are some missables in terms of there are 6 hidden collectibles and a couple of missable achievements. There is a chapter select, so it's not a major, and it's like a 2 to 3 hour game, maybe 4 hours if you're really struggling. So again, not a major, but just a really, like, again, a perfect Game Pass game. Something that I really enjoyed, had a really great art style, is incredibly adorable, relatively well written, has this, like the art style is this kind of like drawn on paper style, like not quite crayon, but sort of pastel sort of effect going for it. And it's just really like whimsical and cute, and like in a way that's it's a little bit twee, but I really enjoyed it. And it's, like I said, perfect Game Pass game. Play it, have my experience with it, and then I'm done. Didn't have to pay for it, and I got to have that experience that I probably never would have had if I didn't have it right in front of me.
You use a guide for that, or?
I used a video guide for it just because I didn't want to miss the collectibles.
Yeah, I was trying to find a good one when I first started, but
yeah, there's like a 100% guide that if you skip to the end of it, like I'll link it to you in the chat afterwards. There's a guide that has the entire game in it. Well, it's like edited, so you don't have to do all the walking parts, but it also has a part where it's like, hey, here's all the missable achievements, like back to back to back in order. So you can just watch that bit and kind of get a good idea of how it works.
Yeah, cool.
Well, I guess question to you then: what do you reckon the time cost would be of going back for the Mistfalls with chapter select afterwards. Because the two approaches I'm going to take one of, I'll either play it blind and chapter select to finish it off, or I'll watch that 5-minute segment at the end and then play it with that benefit.
I would just watch the segment. I mean, there are a couple of bits that are... Because when you have chapter select, there's only like 10 chapters in the game. Again, they're not massively long, but it does mean you have to start at the very beginning of the chapter.
And if you're playing 4 or 5 of the 10 chapters again...
Exactly. It does add up a little bit. And like again, you have to go through all the dialogue again. You have to go through all of the puzzles again. Like there isn't really like a quick skip or anything like that. So I would just watch that bit. Most of them are pretty easy. But yeah, you'll figure it out. But again, and once you've done it once, you'll pretty much remember it for the Windows 10 version if you want to double dip on it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a bunch of people. If you chuck that in the Twitch chat and also in the podcast channel, we'll go straight for the timestamp.
Yeah, I'll definitely link that in there. I've also been playing Saints Row 4 on the PC, the Windows 10 version of it. Just because now I have a gaming laptop, I can actually play some of this stuff. So I'm finally going back to things that I bought ages ago, and I'm like, hey, I couldn't run this before, but I bought it when it was like $5 or whatever. Now I actually want to play it. And I'm having a really good time with it.
Did the original sign in? Was that an absolute pain in the ass? Or
no, it was fine. It turned out fine. Actually, I had to do a little bit to get the Xbox syncing
to get the sign in profile. Because I remember personally when I did Hall of Fame, trying to originally get that to work, I had to disconnect from the internet, restart the PC. Get it to reboot, reconnect to the internet, something like that. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah, so what I ended up doing, I think, is I went into airplane mode and then went into co-op and then tried to start a co-op game. And it says, hey, you're not connected online. Retry. Then Alt-Tab out of the game, take it off airplane mode, have it retry, and then it'll bring up the login as Xbox and bring in your stuff, because otherwise you won't get achievements. So yeah, it's a little bit finicky in a way that's kind of not great. I'm not really sure why it's that way, but it has been working so good. It's been working good so far. Cool. I also have been... Well, I've been playing Ghost Recon Future Soldier. Because, as many people will know, it is... Ubisoft have announced that they are shutting down 3 of their 360 online services. Again, we don't know what that entails or when it exactly is. They just say 2021 on them. But they're shutting down... Rainbow Six Vegas 1 and 2 and Future Soldier. Now, I've already done Vegas 1 and 2 years ago, and I started Future Soldier, but basically couldn't find anyone to play online with, so I'd done all the single player, well, most of it, and just had been putting this off. I'd done the guerrilla mode, so it was really just the online where you needed like 8 people to start a match, and it gets a bit annoying, because the online's just not great. Yeah. So I finally got a group together, we're double boxing it, so I played a lot of it, but it's just been difficult trying to get timing together for everyone, and there are a lot of people playing, and people have lives, and I live here in New Zealand, and one of the guys in Australia, and then there's another guy in the States, and it's all over the place. But we will get through it. I don't know when it's shutting down. There has been rumors that it's going to be like June, so I'm pretty eager to get this finished.
People should be ready for it to shut down on 1st of June.
Yeah.
Because they've announced specific dates that the PC servers are shutting down on 1st of June. Meanwhile, the console servers are shutting down sometime this year. So if you had to pick a day, you'd probably guess 1st of June, and you should definitely plan on that basis.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what I've been going off of. So I'm hoping to... I don't know if I'll get it done this month. I've got a big session coming up over this weekend that I'm going to try and push most of it out. We got... There is a challenge system in the game where if you have a friend on your friends list who's been playing the game, there's a chance that they will... Whatever stat they have in terms of like, hey, they've got this many grenade kills in a match, or this many regular kills, or melee kills, or hacks, or whatever. If they have more than you, it says, hey, beat their record. And so there's an achievement for doing that back and forth with the same friend 5 times in a single go. The problem is that I had boosted this game previously, whereas my boosting partners had never played it. So my stats, they got me immediately, and I got all 3 of them the achievement. I did not show up on their list once. So I'm trying to work out how to boost their stats in something that I haven't done a lot of, to a way that they basically eclipse me, so I can basically beat them. But we'll get there. That's the challenge thing is the one thing that I'm worried that they may definitely shut down, because they have talked about, I think it was Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter 2, they were shutting down the servers for, they said, but it just turned out they shut down a couple of leaderboard things that didn't matter, and you could still get all the achievements and play all the modes. So we don't know what state that this shutdown's going to be, but I'm expect the worst, hope for the best. But I'm also playing through the co-op mode with friend of the show Adrian Kiku, and we're having a pretty good time with it. It's like we're playing through on easy and just kind of just ripping through it like run and gun, which is definitely not the way you're supposed to play this game. But it plays okay. It's a little weird. It plays like Gears of War with less targeting options in terms of like your reticle is like huge, so you kind of point the general direction and shoot. Like you can click the button, like you hold down the left trigger to sort of aim in the general direction, and then you click the stick to pull up iron sights to be able to be more precise. But it's kind of a weird system. There's like a whole stealth mechanic, and there's a lot of like devices like you can hack things and throw sensors to find enemies, and like it's future soldier stuff, so it's supposed to be like near future tech. But I don't know. It's not a bad game for a 2012 game. It looks pretty fucking bad. Like in terms of like visuals, it looks like shit, to be honest. But in terms of gameplay, not bad. I've also been playing... Okay, so I am well known to be the man with the rubber arm, and that I succumb to peer pressure nearly daily. So, when one Valaxy said, hey, you know that Games with Gold game Swim Sanity that came out, like that was free a few months back? I've got 3 people for that, and we need a 4th. Do you want to play it? And I said, well, I'll look at the achievements. I mean, like, I've already got the game... Like, it's in my collection, right? I haven't played it, so I haven't added it to my backlog technically, but it is there. I look at the achievements like, this looks kind of rough. Like, it's got like a 4.5 ratio. Not a lot of people are doing a lot of the achievements. Like, a lot of people have like one achievement, but like maybe it's Games with Gold, like ratio inflation, because people started it and said, I don't like this, I'm not going to play any more of it, and they just don't care. So eventually, after some nagging, I succumbed, and fuck me, this game is bad. Oh my god. So it's a side-scrolling shooter. It's a run-based side-scrolling shooter where, like, there's an arena mode. Think, do you guys remember that really shitty 360 game Undertow that was made by Chair, the guys who made, they made Shadow Complex after that? And it was like a third-person...
free to apologise for an Xbox Live outage.
Yes, I was wondering if people would remember that. Yes, that is what they gave it away. I think I'd already bought it at that point, actually, though, because I was a sucker back then. I mean, I still am now, but at least I can admit it.
But you're not buying games anymore, right?
No, I'm not. Well, I mean, I'm trying not to.
We'll get to that.
How many games did you buy yesterday?
I have not bought any games yesterday, I don't think.
Oh, well done.
Oh, yeah, so I might have bought a couple on this one, don't worry about it. The Metro PC collection might have been on a really fucking good sale. Okay?
Here we go.
All right, look, I'm a sucker for a good deal. But yeah, so it's a side-scrolling kind of arena-based shooter where you basically they have like co-op modes, but it also has a sort of run-based story mode where you're side-scrolling where you need to basically complete a challenge with a bunch of teammates, and you just kind of shoot with the stick. You get a couple of abilities. It reminds me a lot of kind of like Metal Slug Underwater, but like way ropier. Like in terms of like production value, not great. It's also very tough. Like it's pretty unforgiving. There are plentiful checkpoints, but if all of you die in a map, like you just go back to the very beginning. So like it's pretty rough. Like there aren't really lives or anything like that. A lot of one-hit kills with the bosses. A lot of like coming across the side of the screen, and if you don't dodge fast enough, you're done. And like we had the classic thing where we're fighting a boss. He's in stages, so like you fight him at the beginning, and then stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and like he shows up again through the levels. We get to like stage 3, and then he just comes across the side of the screen, and we've never gotten to this part of the boss before, so we don't know what his pattern is, and he just wipes all 4 of us out in a single hit, and we're back to the start. So yeah, fuck this game for a start. Really not enjoying it, but I will go through it because I'm super stubborn. But it is what it is.
Just for context, Swim Sanity is one of the games that the GTASC crowd were playing like mad in the final stages, along with stuff like Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, because it is just such a pain that nobody not doing it for GTASC would ever complete it if they were sane.
Exactly. Like it's that's the thing is that like in terms of like ratio inflation is huge because there's a bunch of multiplayer achievements that aren't that difficult to get, but just people play like the first level and they're like, this is not what I want. I don't want to play this at all.
Why'd you give me this Xbox?
Yeah, exactly. Like wow, take it back. So I'm not super impressed with that.
GTASC and stuff would have a multiplier for rating or something. So
exactly. They have to. Yeah, they get points taken away based on star rating. Would be fucking hilarious.
Times rating. It's the way to go.
Yeah. I think the other, and so the last thing I've been playing was a recommendation from Cameron. I played through Yes Your Grace, which, for those who don't know, is a pixel art management sim where essentially you are a king in a small kingdom who is, let's say, undergone some problems and needs some help. Yeah, so like, again, you are basically put over and over in impossible situations that you need to solve, and without really good answers and very limited resources. And so you basically have to manage your daily income from taxes with your relationships with other lords of the area and like what their wants are, and they're conflicting a lot of the time. Also with a request from the peasants around, and like, hey, it's like, hey, I need gold to do this because my son's gone missing and I need you to send someone to find him. And you're like, oh great, I'll send someone out. And then the very next person's like, hey, I've just had someone murder, like I've just had some sort of monster murder my village. I definitely need your hunter. And you're like, oh, I can give you some gold. I'm like, no, I need the hunter. And you're like, oh, well, I just sent the hunter to look for some like lost kid or something. So you're gonna have to just like maybe just die. So you have to manage. Yeah, you have like gold, supplies, how strong your army is, which you need to get up to a certain point before a certain thing happens. Before basically a battle is coming, and you need to be ready for it. And so you need to recruit lords to get your get your army rating up, because you just don't have a big enough army. And so this involves, like making alliances, selling drugs, like getting involved in like voodoo curses and like weird spiritual stuff that you're like, I'm sure this is bullshit, but like so many people believe in this stuff that I have to do something about it, otherwise it'll look suspicious. And it's like, okay, well, I need to I haven't got a male heir, and I'm getting kind of old, and also like I have 3 daughters, and like I really I really need an army for this battle, and like this king says like, hey, like your 13-year-old daughter is like, I'm getting kind of old and I kind of want someone like young, and it's like, and you're like, whew, this is like really fucking creepy, but also like I kind of need like 1,000 people, otherwise I'm gonna die.
Historical accuracy.
It's like there is a guide. There is a guide to help like alleviate a lot of the stuff, so you can get like the good ending. And trust me, the good ending is still like not great. Like there's still some like stuff that is.
Yeah, I mean besides the major twist.
Besides the one, like there is one horrific thing that happens that you basically can't do anything about. Well, there's a couple of bad things that happen.
I mean,
I'm just
the
curious,
worst thing that happens is probably making me king in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there is definitely an element of that. So basically what happens is like the game starts off with you, your castle being sieged, and you basically like the enemy is at the gate, and you put on your crown, you go out there, you're like, your commander's like, hey, look, we don't have enough troops for this. They're going to take us down, and like you have to give like a rallying speech, and then it goes like. So you have like an option of a speech, and one of the speech options is raise white flag, and just end it right there. Just be like, nah, I'm out. I can't do this. Just take the castle. I don't give a shit. And then like it basically goes back a year, and you basically have to spend the year preparing for this event.
Can I just say that exact same option too is at the end of the game when it catches
Yes,
up.
you could do that at the end of the game too. If you get to the end of the game, you're like, wow, I had a year to prepare and I did not do it well at all. You can still be like, fuck it, I give up. I completely surrender.
This sounds like a laugh.
It is like it definitely has a sense of humor to it. Like it is a dark comedy in many ways.
It has a lot of parts that are very emotionally conflicting as well.
Yes,
like that.
Yes,
that major plot twist in the middle of the game just made me so.
Yeah, and there's a lot. Yeah, again, that's the thing is like you make decisions based on the information you have, and often they're not like there's just you can't foresee what's going to happen, and like you try to do the best you can with the information you have, but it's like who can you trust? How do you balance your resources? How can you keep people happy? And it's like you could get to a stage where it's like, well, I have a bunch of resources, and like my sentiment's relatively high, so I'm not really going to care that much about my peasants, but like that can come back to bite you, and. Again, I don't want to give too much away. Like, there is a guide to get a good ending, and like the second playthrough I did is for the Mad King achievement, which is basically let literally everybody die and be as bloodthirsty as possible. So every time it's like, hey, we captured someone. Do we want to interrogate? No, murder them. I'm going to go over there and stab them myself. It's like, oh, I'm gonna like, oh, you want my daughter? Sure, whatever, fucking take her. It's like, hey, oh, you know, you've got this horrible situation, we can heal you? Nah, not bothered. Oh, hey, refugees? Nah, done. Get the fuck out of my country. Like, it's horrific. And the ending for that is just bad. So, like, again, it's a sliding scale of morality, and there is no really good option. There are just less worse ones. And a game like that stresses me the fuck out, but the way they do it is relatively well balanced. There's some interesting story hooks, and I really enjoy playing through. And again, another perfect Game Pass game. Probably wouldn't have played it if Cameron hadn't recommended it. I mean, look, it helps that there's a guide and the achievements are relatively straightforward. Like, I will fully admit that. But I'm glad I had the experience. It definitely does wear thin a little bit because you have to basically go through 50 weeks. And, like, a week is, like, maybe... You can get a week done in, like, 2 minutes. If you flick through it quickly, make your decisions, balance your resources, and move on to the next week. But there are story elements, and, like, there are optional dialogue stuff, and there's other things you can do.
I think the only thing that could have made this game better is if you had the point to save at certain, like, have separate save files and work it down to like 1 and a bit playthroughs rather than the full 2.
Yeah, having to do 2 is a bit of a pain because, again, like it saves each individual week, but there is only 8 save slots and they overwrite as you go over them. But I wish there was a little bit more variety in what you could actually do in the game, but I kind of get the idea is that you're supposed to... You know, the whole thing is like, oh, he sits on his throne and he doesn't fucking do anything and he just says, oh, yes, no, whatever, I don't care. And it's like, actually, no, being a king is actually pretty fucking hard. And like you can't go out there and really fight battles or do anything yourself. You have to delegate literally everything you do to your people, and you have to trust that they're good enough for their jobs and they're not scamming you, and that when someone comes and says, hey, I need a hunter to go on this expedition, and you say, I don't have my hunter, is there anything else I could do? And he says, oh, I could use some gold. And you're like, wait a minute, why do you need gold? And he goes... I need to do some training. I need a training mod. And you're like, get the fuck out of here, you fucking scammer.
Okay. Another, not a major spoiler. The baby.
Yes. Yeah, there is that.
I can't remember if I mentioned that a few weeks ago or if...
I think you might have.
Right.
But yeah.
So essentially there's this part where these 2 women come up with a baby and they're just like, I'm the mother. No, I'm the mother. And they're just fighting over this kid. And then...
So you go all biblical and cut the kid in half?
Yeah. So that's the thing, is that like there is one option that is like, I can't decide, like, how am I supposed to know? And there is a joke option where you can just be like, yeah, cut it in half. Do the King Solomon thing, right?
Yeah, because that's straight out of the Bible.
But
yeah, exactly, right, yeah.
The funny thing from that is it gives you the actual answer, because this one woman's just like, yeah, cut the baby in half, I'll take half. And the other woman's like, no, please don't cut my baby.
It's
like, oh, okay, maybe I should give the baby to the one that's not going to want the baby cut in half.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Again, the game definitely has a really good sense of humor. So, but it's not like, again, does not shy away from like hard topics like kind of like marrying your daughters off to foreign lords, but betrayal about like murder and like slavery and like, you know, refugees and war and things like that, but also has a sort of gallows humor to it. But I highly recommend it.
Managing your daughter's obsession with pets.
That is probably the funniest thing in the entire game. Is that basically, just to tell people, the youngest daughter has a cat, or is friends with a cat that belongs to the other daughter, and when the other daughter leaves, she has to replace the pet. So she replaces the pet with increasingly more ridiculous animals. I won't say any more than that, but it gets fucking ridiculous. But anyway, I've talked about this way too long, but definitely play it. It's on PC Game Pass and regular Game Pass, so you can play it on either. I think it's Play Anywhere. I played it on PC. I played it on PC. It works super great, and there is a really, really good guide. The guide doesn't give you all the achievements, so just keep an eye out for them, especially the one... There's a couple in there for selling all the artwork and things like that. Just have a look at the achievements as you go through it, any of the non-story related one, because they are missable. But the guide gets most of them. Anyway, I've prattled it on for fucking ages, but that puts me at 4,790 for this week. Jeez. Oh, and one last thing. I will be done with Gears of War 2 next week. I hit level 95. I've got 5 more levels to go, and I'm like 10,000 kills away from Seriously 2.0. I'm going to get that fucking game done, and my my 6-hour boosting sessions will be a thing of the past. I say thing of the past, they'll just move on to another 6-hour boosting session.
You hear it here. In one fortnight from now, he'll be starting seriously 3.0.
No, I'll be working on Ghost Recon and then probably Far Cry, and then I'll hear about another shutdown or another Game Pass game that I have to validate. The fucking treadmill never fucking ends. Anyway, I love this hobby. Cameron, what have you been playing?
All right, so I'll just get the quick and easy ones out of the way. So COD Advanced Warfare and 360 still going through. Pretty much nearly everything's done except for like the Easter eggs. I had an attempt at the double feature. I got to I think like round 16 or 17 solo.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I was pretty impressed with myself with that, but haven't had time to go back to it. Outriders played a little bit, but not really enough to mention more than that. Most of my week has been spent on the weekend of my parents playing Lonely Mountain Downhill. I think it's Lonely Mountain Downhill. I just wanted a quick, mindless, indie kind of title out of Game Pass.
And then you changed your mind, clearly.
What was that?
And then clearly you changed your mind because from what I've heard...
yeah, exactly.
I played, I want to say 10 hours over the 2 days. So I've done a little bit of it, and it's enjoyable, but I know I'm going to hit a brick wall. Yeah. I talked to Stephen about it, and it does get significantly harder. But for what I played of it so far, I mean, it's a downhill cycling game. It's pretty mindless. The only stuff I'm probably going to need to look at a guide for is certain campsites. And then saying that, when you... I'm the kind of person with games like that too to try and find the cheat way. And then even though the cheat way is probably going to take me 20 attempts and make it take significantly longer than the actual way that I'm meant to be going, I'll just take the cheat way.
Oh yeah, if you've got a solution that doesn't definitely work, I mean, you should always bump your head against it.
But saying that, I was doing, there was some tracks that I was just doing insane jumps and shaving 20 to 30 seconds off my score, just because I managed to get it done by the 50th time. Because it's either I'm working against crashes or I'm working against time.
You only got to get it right once, right? That's the thing. Yeah, one good run will set you up.
Pretty much it. I might play a little bit more this weekend, just see how it is. Nikita,
the reputation it's got is it's really hard to beat, but the ratio is inflated. So it's one of those ones people for contests. So it's not as hard as the to look, but it's also not easy.
It's one of those games that I think would be moderately hard. The last few achievements are going to be the ones that really get me. Rock Band. Nikita has been obsessed with Rock Band ever since I brought the Warriors rock kit back from Cranbourne in Melbourne.
Good.
So pretty much from that, she's been playing Lego Rock Band non-stop for the last week. However, I turned around today and I'm just how can you hear that? She's what do you mean? I'm what volume are you playing on? I'm playing on 0. It's easier to concentrate this way.
Oh, that's pro gamer move right there.
And I just looked at her. I'm just are you serious right now? Are you serious? What song are you playing? It's I don't know. I'm you getting achievements? Yeah, I'm getting through the game. I'm I mean, if it works. But I pretty much went through, I think it was Wednesday night up until Thursday midday. There's an achievement in the Beatles Rocks Band for completing the story mode in less than 24 hours. So I went through and 5-starred every single song on there. I don't know what to say. Beatles is just as a Rock Band game, it's moderately okay.
Yeah, I mean, in terms
I thought it was amazing.
In terms of the production, I love it.
All right. I have an explanation for this. You're British.
Yes, you're right.
I mean, look, the Beatles Rock Band as a product is fantastic.
I mean, I've been trying to chase one of those proper rock, Beatles Rock Band kits.
I love the work they did with it in terms of when they did the storyline of stuff with the songs and when they came out, and moving into the psychedelic stuff with Abbey Road and all the stuff with the Yellow Submarine and the art style and all that sort of
the art style is the main thing. Like that ending, I guess clip or video, is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I love the opening too. It's just so good. I get the only problem with that game is that the variety of songs that the Beatles do is not super wide. Like it is like you kind of it's unlike, you know, say like Rock Band Metallica and all that sort of stuff or whatever it was, where it was like, hey, you know, like it's Guitar Hero Metallica, where it's like, hey, it's Metallica plus Metallica inspired stuff. It's got a little bit different to it and there's a little bit of variety. Like this is just Beatles, right? So you got to really like the Beatles to be playing a lot of that stuff. I'm still never going to get God Blesses on My Fingers achievement because that's bullshit.
I was going to ask about that because I'm not the greatest drummer. I'm good at the vocals and guitar, like properly good, really. But the drums, I scraped by, and I didn't get blisters going for that because I'm a cellist anyway, so I've got tough fingers. But I mean, that wasn't easy. Certainly back in the day, I was very pleased to get that, and I still know the song very well. That was good fun.
All right. Well, I'm definitely visiting you next time I'm traveling.
I don't have the instruments anymore.
Oh no, I'll bring them with me. Don't worry, I'll pack them all.
Okay,
in.
perfect.
It's fine.
But yeah, like I've been enjoying quite a bit of it. I probably go back and play a little bit after giving a little bit of a break after the Beatles songs. I mean, I don't mind some of them. Like "Come Together" is a good song. But some of the other stuff I was just falling asleep during, to be honest. I'm just going to be honest. I want to have the experience.
I will try not to judge you too much, but I just like the Beatles. Like the Beatles were my favorite band for like a decade, so it's like it's kind of hard for me to hear. But I understand. It's not
okay. But your music,
I'm predisposed to like that kind of thing as
like
well.
Modern day.
Yeah, music is so massive for me, and music games are something I like, and the album experience type games really do a thing for me. So Sayonara Wild Heart, I played not too long ago. I can't remember if I mentioned it on one of these or not.
Yep.
Right, so you know what I think about it. But I love that full album experience, and you really got that throughout the Beatles, but especially for the Abbey Road album, which came across much in the same kind of way. And yes, obviously, I'm never going to put 50 hours into Rock Band Beatles. You know, you're just not. But in the same way that you might go around a museum or something, or go to a gig and just have an amazing experience, you know, Beatles Rock Band is a temple of Beatles. That's sort of, you are a Beatles fan, this is how to honour them. And as an experience that you do and you're done with, wow. Whereas the Rock Band games, they are something you could play 1,000 hours.
Yeah, true.
I'm definitely not a Beatles fan, and that's why I kind of came in this I want to have that experience. Like, this was never the kind of music that I was exposed to growing up.
Yeah.
Like my early teen years were like purely Fall Out Boy, My Chemical Romance, Panic Disco, that kind of stuff, and that's where
which are all brilliant
influences come from.
Yeah, and
that is
to be fair, like
different.
Again, Cameron, we're very close in age. Like, again, I grew up with a lot of that same stuff as well. Again, I don't listen to it as much, but like, again, like I still love MCR. Like, I'm going to go see MCR in November if they fucking show up. And like, again, like one of my best friends had a massive emo phase, and like, so like I got stuck in it.
I'm gonna slightly go off tangent here. So Short Stack, which is one of my favorite Australian bands, we were meant to see in April last year. They then postponed to April this year, which I think I was actually meant to be going to see them tonight if they hadn't been postponed again. They have now been postponed again till December. The 3rd of December in Melbourne, which also happens to coincide with the Good Things Festival, which is my favourite music festival there as well.
Oh.
So it's been delayed twice, only to hit on my favourite music festival of the year.
Oh, and that's rough.
So it's like, Nikita really wants to go and see Short Stack, and I'm like, but like, I could see multiple bands.
Well, how long's the festival? Skip out for one evening?
What was that?
In the same place?
It'd be like less than half an hour away between both of them.
Yeah, so you could sort of skip one night of the festival.
I would miss the headliner, though, of Good Things. That would be the main thing that sucks. It's just really unfortunate timing, and I don't know if people are going to cancel their tickets now just to see a majority of acts compared to one. But anyway, I digress. That was just something that irritated me a little today. Saying
Yeah.
that, moving on to another Rock Band game, Lego Rock Band. Have either of you played this?
No.
Sort of. I exported the tracks, which is my biggest thing against Beatles. So I owned Lego Rock Band. I exported the tracks. I've full comboed all of them, but I've never played the game.
As a idea, I really like it because it's essentially like a Lego game with those kind of collectibles. Unlocking instruments, getting your vehicle upgrades. So going from like a minivan to a trailer and that kind of stuff. Having a band manager. It's a bit of a little different take on Rock Band. But then, like some of the avatars, I can't think of the joke names right now. But Nikita was just running me through them, and they're just absolutely amazing. And it plays as a lot more of a family-friendly game.
Sure, but it's basically Rock Band with a skin, though, right? At the end of the day, like there isn't really in terms of mechanics.
I mean, essentially in terms of the main game, yes.
Okay,
but I like that extra layer of having the collectibles, having the different avatars. I never realized when I was playing Rock Band 3 last week, and I might have mentioned on the previous podcast, you can actually get your avatars in there as well.
Yeah.
And I just think that's absolutely beautiful to be able to play your avatar on 360 in these kind of games.
That's the real reason you can't do it on the Xbox One. They just I can't bother porting the avatars.
Yeah, pretty much it.
I think they just wanted to sell Rock Band 4.
Actually, yeah. Well, Harmonix apparently didn't do super well for them. So
Nah.
Legacy adapter, Rock Band 4 guitar. Hook me up. I don't want to be spending $300 though just for a plastic instrument. 100's my ballpark. But I mean, like I've been enjoying Rock Band, and I find Rock Band a little bit more easy in terms of skill compared to Guitar Hero. Like Rock Band,
I'm kind of with you. Like Guitar Hero 3 in particular is kind of bullshit, to be honest. Like in terms of the note placement and just how they set it up, like they just kind of put stuff in there for its own sake. They kind of pulled it back a little bit with World Tour, but yeah, I tend to find Rock Band a little easier as well.
Like I can just I'm not the best guitarist. Like I spent a lot of my 10-year-old, 11-year-old stage PS2 wired controller just going for a medium trying 100% songs. I don't think I've really ever touched hard. Had a crack at it today, and I mean in Rock Band I'm scoring 90% plus on first go on a few of these tracks. I swap over to Guitar Hero 3 and it's a much different story.
Yeah, I'm with you. I used to play it a lot with my brother. My brother was the Guitar Hero person in the house, so he would be the lead person, and I would try and scrape through the songs. But he's moved on to bigger and better things, and now I have the fucking guitar sitting here being like, well, I have these games on my tag now, so I need to finish them at some stage, I suppose, or get as much out of them as I can.
Like I said, we'll have a band day one day. We'll do achievement.
We definitely should.
We'll have 2 sets set up and just rock to our heart's content.
Bring a couple
That would be some lovely Real Gamerscore patron content, actually. If you two could get together, you two and Tarragon, get together, do some Rock Band, 4-piece, full band, record some of it, put that up for the patrons. I think that would be brilliant.
I mean, I'm obviously on vocals then, so that's fine.
I honestly, if I have the plastic guitar, I mean, Tarragon on guitar, I could be on bass, Matt could be doing vocals, and then we just need somebody to be a drummer. We can do it all online.
Well, you can do 3-part vocals, so,
Oh, God, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Okay. So we'll have 2 beautiful singing voices and 1 person butchering the whole thing.
Yeah, pretty much. That's, that's, again, we will leave it up to the listeners to decide who's who.
Vocals are definitely easier on the Guitar Hero games, because some of them you can literally just put your mic next to a fan.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get that 100% on Beat It or whatever it is on Expert for World Tour. Got to time it just right with the fan or whatever.
Can I ask too? I'm going to put a shout out to everybody in the chat and that as well. Has anybody ever heard of a game called A Band?
Nah.
Nope.
Because I went for a whole stage last night of I want to pretty much get every musical title and give it a crack, yeah? Which, I mean, the unfortunate thing with that is I'll have to do music of melody and the stacks and some of the region-specific stuff. But I came across this game called A Band, and it's not on TA, but I saw a 360 trailer. I saw a mention on Wikipedia it was for 360. I believe it was for 360, and I saw, I think, the absolute worst developer trailer I've ever seen in my life. But I mean, if anybody can find this game, I would be very interested.
Huh. It looks like maybe it's an app.
Yeah.
Some sort of like
with a
mobile
dash,
app.
a dash band.
Yeah, it's a dash band or a hyphen band. I know, it was just interesting. But yeah, I'm pretty much going to go for a one stage and just try and get all the musical games. I mean, just
maybe focus on your other series completions first.
I mean, this is collecting. That's a different goal than
I see.
Yeah, cool.
I see.
I mean, like, when Persephone's old enough, I need to have a copy of, We Sing Country for absolutely no reason whatsoever. But anyway.
It's a key rite of passage that every kid knows her dad is the saddest person ever, so you're just preparing for that phase.
Anyway. Pretty much other than that, most of the week has been spent playing different variations of Halo, so... did a little bit of boosting Halo MCC. I have roughly 50 achievements to go now. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to test the PC mods for Lasso and see how that goes. Other than that, playing through Halo 3 ODST on Legendary, just solo. I mean, I'm what I would consider to be okay at Halo, so I'm just going through this at a normal pace. The real challenge...
Yep. ODST has a good level of difficulty. I think it's probably my favorite Halo. I think
the only thing I struggle with is I don't like the in between. Like I feel like there's proper levels, and then there's
there's
going to go.
There's a hub. Yeah. There's a hub level. Yeah, which I actually think is kind of cool because it was kind of novel at the time because no real shooters had done that.
Like I like that they had tried something new, but to me this separates the fun of the game where I want to go through the levels. I want to have that fast-paced solo or co-op kind of experience. The hub kind of just feels like, all right, what do I need to do? I need to get from A to B, and I need to get 30 collectibles.
Yeah, I guess so.
They didn't make it for achievement hunters. They made it for somebody.
No, yeah. And it's supposed to be like environment, right? And like you're wandering around, and like you're kind of at a disadvantage because like you run into like a group of brutes and. Like, you could quite easily get messed up. So, again, there's a little bit of, like, picking your battles and sneaking around and not having the sort of linear corridor shooter that they were accused of having with Halo 2. Rightly accused, to be honest. But, and, like, obviously Halo 3 had more of an open, slightly more, it was still linear, but had more open world kind of elements, larger environments. And this is kind of, I think, was their answer to that being like, well, let's kind of open it up a little bit and have, like, set pieces, but like not feel like they have to be one straight after the other. Like you have a bit of like decompression time, get collectibles, don't shoot any engineers because you want that achievement, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I need to remember if I've shot any engineers. I don't think I have. Why, is it shot or killed?
I killed, I think.
Alright, cool. Alright, I'm safe then. Cool.
If you feel like trying the Lasso one for that legit at some point, it's one of the ones that I still need to get, so I'd be totally up for teaming up, but it sounds like you're going for the mod route.
I mean, I'll give it a try, but my main problem is everybody that how do I explain this? When I play Halo, I have like a certain expectation of the people I play with, like, especially if you're playing a Legendary, I think the bare minimum is you know how to noob tube, do a plasma pistol and a headshot.
Yeah.
And the only person I kind of give a pass.
Normally not called a noob tube. That's a noob combo, right?
Noob combo.
Noob combo.
Yeah, sorry.
But yeah, you like
to at least know that technique though, and a lot of people that I play with.
Well, you're not going to get through. Was it Cairo Station without that? To be honest.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's just crazy though. Like you drop into multiplayer, and everybody is just insanely good at the same time.
That's what happens, right? Is that the only people left playing it are the people who are, like Ed Kemper levels crazy about it.
Yeah. But yeah, look, I'll give Lasso an attempt if we can get 4 people that are, moderately skilled. But I've spent
so not me.
I've spent 5 to 6 years in this game. I want to kind of get it done. Well, I kind of want to get it done soon, but at the same time, I'm committing to getting Steven through it, and I'll say it here now too. So if you want to play with us on a Monday night, probably past like 7 p.m. my time, so Australian Eastern Standard Time, come in, join in. I'll try and get you something if I can. I mean, if I can't, then that's on you.
Yeah. Wow.
Don't have expectations of me. Just come and join the party.
I mean, look, mate, if they're watching the show live, they already know. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, cool. And then the other thing I've really played other than that is Halo Wars.
So is this the original on the 360, or are you playing
Halo Wars Definitive Edition on the Xbox One?
Gotcha.
So I didn't know whether to go back to the 360 version first to clean it up, but I just went, you know what? I'll do Halo Wars Definitive Edition. I'll give a little bit of a break and I'll do Halo Wars 2, and then I'll go back to the 360 version when I got the chance. I don't know how to... I'm a massive fan of RTS, like especially when it comes to Age of Empires, but I don't know how I feel about like difficulty-based achievements in RTSs.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that, to be honest, because I feel like the game the missions should be as difficult as they are, and that just kind of is what it is, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, like, again, like, it's not a new thing though, right? Like StarCraft has had difficulty levels in StarCraft 2, and even like Command & Conquer 3 had like difficulty levels for each of their missions. Like, it's not
like Age of Empires 2 has it as well, but they don't. Every achievement is not like complete campaign on hardest difficulty.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true.
I think people expect an RTS to have a high difficulty mode. So then the question is just, are you going to have, an achievement for beating hard difficulty? And let's face it, most games which have a hard difficulty do have that achievement. It's not like just on the Master Chief Collection for having achievements above normal.
It's really not that bad. Also, and if you're playing the Definitive Edition, it's actually even easier because you get the access to the bandana skull. Yeah. Which gives you, I think it gives you like unlimited like special abilities, so you can basically just spam your way through most of the maps on Legendary. Plus, the co-op makes the game a lot easier. There are definitely a couple of tough missions. There's one where you need to defend ships taking off. Fuck that mission on Legendary. Everything else is pretty much fine. You will not struggle. If you've played RTS, which I know you've played heaps of, you won't struggle too much with it.
Yeah, I'll be interesting.
End of the day, an achievement for beating the hard mode is a fairly standard achievement, and at least it's skill-based rather than grind-based.
And especially for Halo as well.
Like, I'm like 3-4 missions in, and from what I've played so far, I was like, first mission, and I'm purely like, I will play starting off legendary difficulty if there's an achievement. I won't do easy unless there's no achievement tied to it, and I want to have more of a breezy experience.
Yeah, because the thing is, I think there's an achievement for finishing all the missions under part-time. So,
but
I would advise
do it. Yeah.
You can go back and do it, but the thing is, like, that's probably easier to do on easy from the first time, and then once you've got a feel for it and you've unlocked the skulls, you can go through and do legendary. But your way works fine too. But I would definitely consider trying to find a co-op partner for it, because I think there is a co-op achievement for finishing all the missions in co-op.
All the missions? I know there was one for one.
I believe so, but it's been a long time, so I don't know exactly.
All right, so now I have to convince Nikita that this isn't a shooty game, that this is a strategy game.
That's true.
I mean, it is a strategy game, but she's going to be like, but they're shooting weapons. And I'll be like, yeah, but you're not shooting the weapons. You're telling them to shoot the weapons. It's a different thing.
I see the achievement for completing one mission in co-op, but not all missions.
I think maybe I just did Legendary co-op because it was just easier.
Yeah, if that helps, that's a great thing.
Be interesting.
Another one that I need to go through at some point. I've started it. I sort of found it a bit boring, the first few missions. And maybe just because I haven't reached the hard stuff. But it didn't grab me and I put it down for better stuff. But I'm totally going to go back at some point. So that might be
once you start getting the Spartans and using their abilities and stuff and you unlock more units, it gets a bit more interesting. But
that would do it, yeah.
It definitely gets harder towards the end.
I like the look of Halo Wars 2, and I think that's what I'm using as my carrot for this, because I want to get all of them done.
Halo Wars 2 is great.
You know what? I think that's a great segue to one of our questions that we've got. Because you're saying that you would love to play Halo Wars 2, but you feel like you should finish Halo Wars first. So we've got a question that's come in from some total mug who loves the podcast so much he even submits questions for it. Like, what kind of person are you? I'm obviously just stalling because there we go. Hawkeye Barry, you see a trailer for a game that's a sequel. You've never played the original, but you think the sequel looks amazing. Can you ignore the original and play the sequel straight away? Or do you have to play the original before you play the sequel?
All right. I got something for this.
But before you start, I just want to say, also, people in the chat who are watching live, if you guys have questions as well, now's the time to ask them. Once we get through this and the next question, we'll see if there's anything, if you guys have any good questions, we might answer them.
Yeah.
So probably not.
Questions, we'll make Cameron answer them.
Yeah, there you go.
What you
were saying, Cameron?
So Halo 3, I think, was one of the first 360 titles I played. I think I might have played like a mission or two of Halo 1 at a mate's on the original Xbox, but past that I had no prior experience. From the first time I played Halo 3, I was like, this is absolutely phenomenal, it's beautiful, I really enjoy this. I had no experience with Halo 2 up until MCC. I can't really think of any other examples, but if the game looks great, I've gone back to Vegas and Vegas 2 just recently because of servers shutting down, presumably in June. I have the completion for Rainbow Six Siege. I kind of want to get that series completion if I can, and they look awful.
Yeah, it is hard to go back, right?
It's so difficult to go back. You have some, I've been playing Splinter Cell recently as well, and that's a year or two after, and I would say they're decades apart in terms of looks, in my opinion. But... Yeah,
I'm with you. It is. Yeah, you're right.
But game by game basis.
Yeah, I'm kind of the opinion that look, I will almost always play the original with a few caveats, right? The first caveat is it available with achievements on the Xbox generation? If it's not, then I probably won't bother. I'll read a synopsis online if I have to. Okay, so that's the first bit. The other is if it is on the Xbox, but it isn't a story-based game and the story doesn't actually matter. If I play Forza again, I'll probably play Forza Horizon 4 rather than playing Forza Horizon 3 or 2 because it's not like I need the great narrative experience of driving a fucking car around. Some games are just technically better as the progression goes on, and you don't need to play the previous ones. But if we're talking about...
Spoiler alert. Spoiler. Yes, you do.
Get fucked. Get fucked. I'm not being baited into this.
Look, there's certain ways you do Forza, yeah? You play Forza Horizon 1, you play Forza Horizon 3, you play Forza Horizon 4, and we all completely forget Forza Horizon 2 ever existed, yeah?
Yeah, and then you got to play Forza Horizon 0.
2 was decent. See, I actually started with the Forza Horizon Fast and Furious tie-in.
That's great.
Can I just say that
Xbox One, they released that for free.
Amazing.
Yeah. Great tie-in. It was a really good encapsulation of what Forza Horizon was.
Yeah, and off the back of that, I bought 2, and off the back of loving that, I went back to 1 because I just wanted more of it. And then
and that's one thing, right? If you want more of the experience, that's one thing going back to it. But it's if you,
yeah.
I think that the way Hawkeye is sort of framing this is sort of from a narrative perspective, right?
Yeah.
Because do you play Borderlands 1? When you could just play Borderlands 3. When, mechanically the games are very similar, and 3 has a lot more quality of life stuff, and, there's a lot of improvements, and it'll probably be a better game overall, but do you suffer through 1 and 2? I definitely would, because I'm a massive achievement whore, and I'd probably do, unless they had some unobtainable or some extenuating circumstance that would stop me from playing the game usually. But, considering I play just about everything I want anyway, yeah, I'm definitely going to go back and play it for the narrative and just for the experience. I like having series completions as much as Cameron does. It's definitely my preference. I don't say I have to, but I probably will.
My snap answer was going to be very similar. I saw the question and I thought, yeah, if it's narrative-based, yes. Otherwise, no. And then I looked back at what I've actually done and thought about my gaming habits in practice. And I realised that well, it depends, but often the answer is no. So Dragon Age, for example. I completely loved Dragon Age 1. And then the reviews came out for Dragon Age 2, and as always, I'd waited for the reviews and how people saw it. And actually, they were saying, look, it's not the same, for starters, and actually, we don't really like where it's at. And then there was good chat about Dragon Age Inquisition, so I skipped straight to 3, and I watched the recap videos for 2, and I was happy to do that. Or you've got the Mario games and the Shantae games. Shantae has a bit of a story that goes through it. I really enjoy the Shantae games. I've played them completely out of order, and I'm not anywhere... I mean, when I say story, like there's as much story in Shantae as in, Sonic, basically. So I'm not exactly missing out on much. There are a few series I insist on. So Mass Effect, personally, so glad I started at the beginning. Although I've actually recommended some of my friends, depending on their taste, start with 2. I would probably tell that same person these days, start with the Legendary Edition and go from 1, right?
Yeah.
But even there, because the games are drastically different, I think Banner Saga, I'm going through in order. I've done 1 and 2. I would never start at 3, because that's one where it really does build. Your experience, your choices as you go. But generally, no, actually, it's certainly if the games are different and the critical rating and reception is different, and people are saying that the first one was okay, but the second one is brilliant, I'll start with the second. I just want to play great games.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm totally with you, and I think that the narrative has to be, again, I think maybe I'll revise my answer and say it, not just a narrative game. It has to be like a strong narrative game. Like you're right. Like Mass Effect is a great example. Like I love that series. Like Dragon Age, I played like 1, 2, and 3. The problem with 2 and 3 is that their mechanics changed quite a bit in a way that I didn't quite enjoy. I much prefer the original, but
same.
But like I still played I think I played Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 before I played 1, because 1 was like originally a PlayStation 2 game they ported over, and 2 was built for the ground up on the 360. Like 1 was probably a better game in terms of like mechanics, but 2 looked a lot nicer and was a lot cleaner and kind of worked better. But again, it doesn't really have it had a narrative, but it didn't really matter all that much. It's just an excuse to play superheroes and beat things up. And at the end of the day, it kind of depends on why you're playing the game. Because if you're just playing to just play the game for fun and just get the gameplay experience, then really it doesn't matter. But as I've said many times, I am a story-based gamer through and through. I don't skip cutscenes. I read a lot of optional dialogue. I really, really enjoy that stuff. So playing through things in order is really, really important to me.
And somehow
I'll tell you what I was never going to do. I was never going to play Dragon Quest 1 through 10 before number 11.
Sure, this is true, but those games don't actually actually overland. Thankfully,
Matt, isn't that the reason why you haven't started Final Fantasy X yet? It's because you're going to play the first 9 first.
Well, like you do joke, but I have considered. I was like, well, I played through 8. I should probably play through 7, and then probably 9 as well before I get to 10. But also 10's not in Game Pass, but 10 I will. Actually, 10
play through 12. 12 is like one of my favorite games.
I love 12.
I've got some bad news with 9. 9 is not aged well. The characters are poorly written. Like motor racing are implausible.
I'm not having this fight on this podcast because I know what Cameron is going to say. Let's move on to the next question. So another dedicated question asker is Mr. Isaac27, who I don't know. I think he did ask when we were recording, but I don't know if he's able to jump on us live. But I'm sure he'll catch the VOD. He says, "Hey guys, I started a bunch of games years ago that I had to put on the back burner due to having kids and whatnot. Starting a game and then not completing it for a really long time always makes me worry about how the game will hold up when I finally have to go back and play it again. Since you guys are often playing old backlogged games, what games do you feel hold up the best over time, and what games have held up worse over time?" Thanks for the show. You're welcome, Isaac. We do it for the fans. We really appreciate you. I guess because. So, I went back and played Halo 3, just for fun, a few months back, and that game holds up really well. Like, the Halo games, I think, is one of the few that, like their core mechanics, again, graphics-wise is always going to be a thing. It's always a crapshoot. Like, graphics always get better with time. You just have to deal with it. But in terms of, like, mechanics, in terms of writing, like, the story is good. Like, the voice acting's still kind of ropey. But, like, it's still, like, even Halo 1, Halo 2, I'm kind of, but Halo 3 is such a great fucking game. Like, I jumped into it and I was 15 years old again, 2007, fucking tank beats Hunter. Tank beats Wraith. Tank beats everything. The line came up and it was so good. And I just had the bet where I was I had Allison next to me. I was like, okay, this is the bit where the scarab jumps down, and me and my mates were driving around a warthog, and you find it off, and then a fucking second one comes in, and you're like, oh shit, and someone has to get in and it was like, a lot of it is nostalgia, but it still plays great, and games like that is so hard to do, to capture that.
There's an added component to this as well, because I believe the fact is it pure nostalgia too, because we're going back and playing these games, but we're playing these with updated graphics, with updated features in a way as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of both, right? Like,
I'm just curious whether our opinions would change on something that hasn't had that same treatment.
Well, again, like I'm talking about original Halo. Like I went back to 360 version Halo, so like,
cool.
So, and like
it still looks prettier than it did at the time.
Exactly, yeah. And so, like, remasters are a little different because, like, there is an intent there that they are playing on the nostalgia with quality of life improvements. Like, the Mass Effect Legendary Edition is the perfect example of that, right? Like, I love Mass Effect. And I think, actually, Mass Effect might be the correct answer for both parts of this question. Because 2 is still a great fucking game. Like, it aged well. The suicide mission is still good. Like, the whole galactic readiness stuff for the third game is kind of but like the second game kind of got it right with the like there's this like sense of urgency. It's the dark chapter. There's a lot of real interesting intrigue. You bring a lot of characters over. You're like, oh my god, it's that character, and this decision made sense. And like they didn't have to make massive webs of stuff. They could just make reference to things because they didn't have 2 games they had to get history from. But Mass Effect 1, holy shit, that has not aged well. Like it is like in terms of mechanics, it is more of an RPG than it is a shooter, which is kind of what they were going for. But the shooter mechanics in the game are bad. The cover mechanics are terrible. The powers just kind of don't really work in a good way. I mean, they're fine, but like they basically, I know that people got on BioWare's case for making Mass Effect 2 too shootery, too Mass Effect-y, like chest high walls and cover mechanics. But it's like I think that that's just a massive improvement to that game. And like so, like and going back and playing it is difficult. Going back though, like I think another one that held up really well over time that I kind of went back for because I had to was Gears of War 2 for Japan, right? So a lot of times when this comes up is games that I'm playing for stacks, so usually regional stuff. So I've played BioShock more times than I can count. That game is great, but I don't think it holds up mechanically after all these years, unfortunately. We've come a very, very long way in the first-person shooter genre, and you look at its contemporaries, like it's sort of like Prey, which is essentially just essentially there's BioShock in space, which is originally System Shock, which is it's very incestuous. And you can see the kind of stuff where they're like, well, it's like, yeah, BioShock kind of started this idea of doing this thing, but we're just gonna take it and run with it. And like, as much as I love the narrative, like the narrative is really the big driving force for BioShock. It is essentially the same narrative as what was in System Shock and other games before it. So it doesn't have that uniqueness. And like, while as much as I've enjoyed going back to playing it, games that don't age well gameplay wise, as good as the stories are a pain to play through. Like there's just no way of getting around it. So I'd probably say those two. And then I think like that's those are probably my sort of answers. What about you, Alex? You got any ideas?
Yeah. So firstly, completely agree with your calls on Mass Effect. Like Mass Effect 1 was my favorite because of the tone and the story, but it's actually a bit painful to play these days. So I've been waiting on the Legendary Edition. I'm looking forward to that so much. I would call out Rayman Origins has aged so well. And to be fair, I'm talking about playing it on a Series X with a 4K TV, with all the investment that Microsoft put into backwards compatibility. But I honestly think that Rayman Origins is the best looking game I've played on my Series X.
Wow, yeah, I did. Okay.
And it's a 360 game.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it looks brilliant because it's got a sort of art-based style, right? And the animation and everything, all of that. Yeah, so it's a contender, certainly. I think it's either that or maybe Forza Horizon 4. And it's hard for me to pick which of them looks better. So in terms of the graphics, Rayman Origins has aged really well. And obviously the gameplay is still there. And it didn't have any writing. let's be honest.
Oh yeah, exactly. True. Yeah, there's basically no dialogue in that game.
Yeah, because it's those three things, right? It's the writing, the gameplay, and the graphics. The gameplay is still good. There isn't any writing, and the graphics look amazing. So Rayman Origins has aged really well, thanks to backwards compatibility investments. I think a lot of strategy type stuff, especially turn-based things. So Civ 4 is still one of my favourite ever games. That has aged perfectly. And I would say the original Pokemon games, both the first and second generations, sort of play Pokemon Crystal, that has still aged well. You know,
I agree with you, but I think the only reason for that is because there's been so little advancement in that series from the current stuff that it doesn't actually you don't see that gulf. You know, if the next Pokemon comes out and it has all the stuff that people have been asking for years, I feel like it would age 100 years in a day.
Oh, certainly.
I was going to say, just going back to it, you said Civ 4, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously
what's
the
your
best
opinion on
Civ game.
3?
It's good, but I only got into the series at 4, so I'll admit I'm totally biased.
Okay.
The first one always has a special place in your heart.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I got into the series in 3, so yeah, okay, I can see what that
No, I have no criticisms of 3. Let's put it that way. But 4 is my life.
Cool. Yeah,
you know,
fair enough.
But yeah, in terms of games that haven't aged well, of the ones I've played recently, FF9 was the worst, Final Fantasy 9, because I played 7 and 8 back in 2003, I think, and by then they already felt a bit aged. But Final Fantasy 9 I played for the first time last year. Obviously, the graphics are rubbish because it was on the 2D, 3D transition. That's a given. But what shocked me was just how badly written it is. Like, the characters aren't nice people. They aren't well written. They aren't convincing. The story's stupid. And unlike, say, Dragon Quest, where, at least in Dragon Quest XI, while you have to suspend your disbelief and stuff, the characters at their core, you know, you get the characters, and the game has a sense of fun. I just didn't get any of those vibes from Final Fantasy IX. I feel like, obviously, it was a big budget thing. Obviously, it has major fans, right? And at the time, it was big. But I just think that it was big because at the time, it was at the cutting edge of stuff. And actually, it hasn't aged well at all.
Man, that's a controversial one because that is a lot of people's favorite Final Fantasy.
I think 13 was better than 9. But then I played about the same time. See, I get that 9 was better at its time. I get that when 9 was released was better than 13 when 13 was released, and that 13 hasn't done enough to move on the genre, and certainly I'm not going to say it's a good game. I'm not going to say it's a great game. I think it was okay. But playing both 9 and 13 in the same year, 13 knocks its socks off, you know. 13 is better written with better characters, and I say that fully knowing the quality of the characters in 13.
Oh, that's not
me praising 13. I'm just saying, if you think 9's better, go back and play it again.
Yeah, I mean, okay, like I have not played 9, so I can't, like, again, it's one of those ones that I've been sitting there, it's like, well, I need to get the Final Fantasies done at some stage. But, man, 13 broke my fucking heart. Like, 13 Part 2, I absolutely love. But 13, the original 13, holy shit, the characters were just absolutely one note. The story made no sense. It was a fucking corridor walker until the 13th chapter. Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And for 9 to be worse than that, that's going to be... I'm looking forward to that. Great.
I think, but we've just got an expectation of the quality of writing in RPGs and things these days. Yeah. Even for the indie scene, you have some amazing solo-written RPGs. And I think back at the time, just the Square Enix got RPGs into our hands was amazing. You know, just this thing where a JRPG even made it across the pond and we had the chance to play it and it was in English and it was this massive world you could go out into. Those things made it an amazing experience. But now I've played 100 JRPG type games, some of them as well written as a book, you know, and to go back to something where the only draw was it's got a turn-based battle system and a world map. It's sort of, wait a minute, what happened to writing? Yeah,
exactly. And it's like, and what happened to graphics, right? Because that polygonal
that as well
was a rough one. And like you're 100% right. And I think that like this is again another tangent, but so the first RPG I ever played was a PlayStation 1 game called Legend of Legaia, which I don't know if anyone's ever played. I know there are some people obviously, but it was one of those things that it's like I'd never seen a JRPG before, and my friend had like imported it or whatever, and he played it, and I was like, what the hell is this? He's like, yeah. I was like, what do you do? He's like, oh no, it's just like you take turns and just beat the shit out of each other, and you do like you do like cool power up moves and shit, and like they yell and like they yell in Japanese, and like there's like fire and stuff. I'm like, this is the coolest thing in the fucking world. Like, fell in love with JRPGs, but like we've moved on from that, like a lot. And like even like Lost Odyssey, which was the most traditional RPG, like it was super traditional. Even that was like, it's like, yeah, like you can run really fast on the world map, and you can teleport between areas, and like you can skip most of the dialogue. And then it's like, and then even beyond that, it's like now games are like, oh well, now we have like a skip battle mode, so like if you're hit a certain level, then you don't have to worry about. Like, I think does a Dragon Quest XI have something like that, like an auto battle thing?
You get tactic systems in a lot of RPGs these days, and yes, you can leave them on their tactic and they'll do their thing, and it's quite simple.
Exactly.
It's basically auto battle. Yeah,
so people get the idea. It's like yeah, like I love setting this stuff up, and I love fighting a few of these battles, and I love the big set pieces, and I enjoy grinding to an extent. But why do I need to push the button? And it's like, well, I guess you don't. So we'll just edit that. And then this is what led to. This is what led to essentially to MMOs in the first place, right? It's like, well, if I'm going to be doing this leveling shit, I might as well count for something, right? And just be part of a bigger thing rather than just the same stuff over and over again by myself. But yeah, I think there's. Cameron, did you have any answers to this one?
The only other real thing I can think of is going back for like Rock Band, that kind of stuff. To me, that holds up to me because that's feeding into my nostalgia, even though it's cross-platform at this point. Like I played originally on PS2, and now having the 360 stuff and hopefully getting the Xbox One stuff. Your answers, I'm completely in the same ballpark as well. I just don't think there's really anything I can add on other than going back and having those experiences with the old peripherals. Like the old buzz, like not buzz, but the buzzers. That kind of stuff.
It is interesting to dig out the old relics and kind of see. Both like how games were marketed back then, how they were made, and how they work.
How they went bankrupt.
And yeah, exactly. It's like how THQ went under. Let's fucking play through the catalog. Yeah, exactly. That's a fantastic question, Isaac. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right, we got a couple of questions in chat here. One, Audrey Lilly. Charlotte has asked, if you could go back and replay a game as if it were the first time again, what would you play? My answer is Shadow of the Colossus. Every time I get asked this, Shadow of the Colossus is one of my favorite games of all time. I know we're an Xbox podcast, but I'm kidding. So for those who don't know, Shadow of the Colossus is is made by the same guy who he originally made Eco on the PlayStation 2, and then he made Last Guardian on the PlayStation 3. Was it 3 or was it 4? I can't even remember what it came out for now. It took fucking forever to make. But the whole idea of Shadow of the Colossus is you've basically come to a forbidden land with nothing in it. And you've made a deal with the devil to basically say, hey, look, this is a woman who's been sacrificed. I want you to bring her back to life. And the devil basically says, sure, but I need you to I need my magic back to bring her back to life. If you go and slay these monsters who hold my power, I will revive her. I will bring her back to life for you. And so he's like, great. And so you basically go hunting. It's a huge open world, like massive. And all that's in it is you and your horse and just this beautiful instrumental soundtrack. It's so good. Again, from a technical perspective, it was fucking ropey because it was pushing the PlayStation 2 to its limits. Bluepoint did a remaster of it for the PlayStation 4, I think, which is really good. But the whole idea is that you have to go hunt down these colossi. And each of them is basically like a puzzle because they're much bigger than you. You need to figure out ways of climbing on them, of like distracting them, knocking them down. You have a bow and arrow that you can it's like, okay, well, I'm going to... So the first one, for example, is just a guy. He's big, but he's not huge. He's like maybe he's like 10 stories tall or whatever. So he's like a small building. Kind of walking around, and like the thing is like you need to jump onto the back of his leg, and like a weak point shows up. You stab it there, he falls forward, and then you jump up and climb up his back and stab him in the head. Real simple for the first one. But they get more and more complex as the game goes on. Like there's one where it's just flying in the air, and so it's like a dragon. So you need to figure out how to get it down to the ground to a level while it's still moving, and like you ride your horse next to it and do like a whole like fucking Wild West jump onto it and climb your way across it. Like the whole game is just that. Like there's literally nothing else in the world besides some shrines and a couple of lizards that you can you can shoot the tails off the lizards to get more stamina, and you can shoot apples off of trees to get more hearts, and that's it. Like that's the whole game. It's super super bare bones, and it has these amazing beautiful vistas, and it's just boss fight after boss fight after boss fight. And like I've never played anything like it, but the problem is that the minute you beat it and you know how to beat it, you know how to beat it. Like it's done. Obviously there are challenges, and like you get rewards for like going back and fighting them again, but doing it faster, or with extra challenges like a hard mode. But like the magic is just discovering the best. Like first of all, finding out where the Colossi is, finding out how to get to them, and then figuring out how the fuck you're going to take down something that's 20 times your size with nothing but a horse, a sword, and a bow and arrow. It's just incredible, and I absolutely love it. I played it just beginning to end. I've played it multiple times, and it's one of those things that like I wish I could take it out of my brain and just play through it all over again.
Get the baseball bat.
Yes.
Wait, what? No, okay.
I mean, unfortunately, my mind is like a steel trap, and I still remember how to beat all those fucking bosses, even all these years later.
I've got a few. Omen Sight is one of the first ones I come to. That I still recommend that you need to jump on at one point, Matt.
I know. It's been in the backlog, and I downloaded. I've always downloaded it, and I was like, I should play this, and then I'm like, not today. Yeah,
it's such a interesting blend of a murder mystery with a hack and slash, and I really wasn't expecting it. Yes, or Grace, we said before, which I think is going to be one of my top ones of this year because it is absolutely phenomenal. Risk of Rain 2. I would love to go back and just like I know I can pick this up at any one point and continue playing it, but
I was going to say, mate, I still haven't started it yet, so it was a great reason for you to pick it up and help me finish it.
I mean, I would have to go to the store and buy another copy, but
of course, right?
It's absolutely phenomenal. I'm trying to think what else. Destiny.
So it's interesting because you're picking like mechanical. I guess I technically picked a mechanical gamers too, but like you're like you want these gaming experiences. Interesting. Okay, yeah.
So I go Omen Sight just because to me, just those blend of genres was just such an interesting thing. I picked things like Destiny because I honestly have that much bloody nostalgia. Like I can think of one of my mates that we three-manned and got the Flawless Raider achievement like from 5 years ago now. Just because to me that is such an iconic moment in my gaming history to be able to go and I can jump into Destiny on 360 or one, walk around and be like, I spent 1,000 hours in this game. Like this is a walk through an old neighborhood for me,
right?
Kind of stuff. That's the reason I picked Destiny. Wolfenstein New Order,
great game.
Nikita's dad came over today, and I let him borrow my Wolfenstein copy of 3D and 360, and we just got into like that kind of talk about the Wolfenstein games, and I honestly think Wolfenstein: The New Order is one of the best games ever made.
I'm kind of there with you in terms of like FPS and like the kind of genre blend and everything together. It's just so good.
And you finished it again recently, so
yeah. So I did on Windows 10, and like I was still just as good going back to it. Like again, that like the previous question, like that's another game that's aged really well. It plays super great. It's still really smooth, and the story is actually quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few other ones that I could keep on mentioning. Like, I mean, I'd love to go back to Forza Horizon 4. I'd love to say the same thing about 3, but I know that Barn DLC has screwed me before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'll leave it at that and let Alex put a few of these in.
I love some of your answers, and my first day with both Forza Horizon 3 and Forza Horizon 4 both had me just grinning, like mad. Sort of the first time playing each of them and seeing what they've done to elevate the experience, sort of running through the jungle in Forza Horizon 3. My first time playing the Hot Wheels expansion, Forza Division 3. Yeah, there's some great moments there. I think ones I had in my head to mention, we were talking earlier about your first console RPG, and okay, my first JRPGs were on Game Boy, basically. My first console one and my first 3D one were both Skies of Arcadia.
I love
I love
Skies
that.
of Arcadia.
Yeah,
So, did you play it on the Dreamcast or the GameCube?
Dreamcast. That was my first console.
Classic.
But yeah, also, I'd love to be able to play Plants v Zombies again for the first time. I just feel like, I know it's on mobile these days, but Plants v Zombies is one of the most perfectly balanced and varied games and experiences. And by now I know all the answers. I have played through it several times, done stacks because I like the game, but it's all just rote. I'm not puzzle solving to figure out how to beat the stuff anymore or what's a good technique. I just know the answers. So I'd love to have that back. And otherwise, those are some of the big ones. My actual answer is going to be really extremely corny, but it's all about the experience you have playing the game more than the game itself sometimes. So my actual answer is drafts or checkers to American listeners. And that's because my grandfather taught me to play drafts when I was 4 or 5, and he passed away when I was about 6. And it's one of the things that I'd always look forward to with him, and it's one of my best memories of him. And obviously, if I ever had the chance to be back in that place again, being taught a game by my mostly patient, occasionally off on one grandfather, especially if you got him ranting about, he was a through and through communist, so he would rant about even mainstream stuff, which went mostly over my head at that age. But I just liked how wound up he got. I would love to have that experience again for obvious reasons that are nothing to do with the game.
I think that's such a great sentiment, right? Because I think that, like, again, the things that we're talking about here is we're when it comes down to it, you're right. Like, we're talking about the experience we had with the game, which includes our life at the time, right? Like that Shadow of the Colossus thing. Like, for me, is that, like, this was a stage where I was in, like, I just started. I was in, like, high school. It was a PlayStation 2. Like, I had friends over. Like, I got it on my birthday, so it has a lot of positive associations for me, in a way that, like, it was my first kind of game like that, where it showed me that games could be different in a way that wasn't just, your regular, PlayStation 2 was rotten with, like, 2D mascot side scrolling and 3D mascot platformers and shit like that, and a game that, like, kind of felt like it was a bit more, like, it had a bit more to it than just, swing a sword for a bit and fight off 100 zombies. I'm totally with you on that, though. Like, that getting that experience is just, it's like something you can never get again.
You can relive it though. We're playing those games. That's the closest.
Yeah, exactly right. That's the thing, is that you try to get that experience back. But, That's a fantastic answer, Alex. That's an amazing answer. All right. Well, I don't even know how to transition.
Sorry, I have totally chucked us off the vibe, though, haven't I?
No. Like, try, like, that's, like, I'm 100% for it. Like, that's a fantastic fucking answer. All right. Well, are there any other last minute questions, guys? Otherwise, I think we'll wrap up the show. Who is a Polion Master? Is that Kiku?
I was thinking the exact same thing. It's got to be. He said Legend of Korra.
He did say Legend of Korra, and he also said Windows Phone Stack. So, and he's also just obnoxious enough that I'm like, it probably is him. I told you I was busy tonight, you dickhead. All right.
And just, I guess from here, well, no.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I think the only thing I want to say with this, like, I hope you guys enjoyed our first, like, kind of test show. I wasn't sure how exactly it was going to go, and we're just going to figure out things like Song of the Week.
And intro and outro music, we'll see how that sort of works. I know Cameron's doing some magic behind the scenes.
Yay. But yeah, like, pretty much from this, I'm just going to see what's going to be the best time that works for everybody. I'd like to make this a regular thing, even if it's like every fortnight kind of thing. And then, like, at the same time, if you guys feel comfortable, send us some audio on, come jump on the show, love to have you. The whole point of this is to have more of an interaction with the community. You know, we all play games together, but it'd be nice just to have that Friday night, Saturday morning kind of chat, just to discuss this kind of stuff.
Yeah, 100%. Like Cameron said, we can move this around. The regular podcast will always come out. The recording will always come out on Tuesday morning, or my Tuesday morning, I should say, at 9 o'clock. I'll do my best to edit this down. But again, we will move the live show around for you know, when we want to get guests on to accommodate, and also for when's the best time for our listeners. And especially our Patreons, because, you know, they are the people who help make this show happen in many ways, from equipment to competitions to server costs. So yeah, absolutely.
You can just kind of complain about me sometimes.
No, exactly.
That's the audio quality.
Well, now you got the mic, so that's, again, we're all fine. And then we are planning on hopefully doing a Patreon movie night, as Charlotte has said. So that would be fantastic. Again, we all want to get your opinions.
There's so many movie suggestions that are being thrown at me that we have to do like something that's not video game related, I think.
I think at the rate we're going, we'll shout out our Patreon show, Lights, Camera, and Action. It's which is, so again, thank you, Charlotte, for that still top notch fucking name. We've got a new episode that we're working on. I'm gonna try and watch the movie this weekend, and then we'll be back with an episode hopefully next week sometime, probably after this one comes out. But I think that pretty much wraps us up. If you want to get a hold of us, you can message us. hello@RealGamerscore is our email address. At RealGamerscore on Twitter, discord.io/RealGamerscore, patreon.com/RealGamerscore to give us some cash. Write us some questions. Best place to send the questions is in the Discord. We've got a Discord channel there just for them. It's a great place to do them, but we will ask questions on the live show like we did now. And if you want to be on the show, send us a message. Myself and Cameron, we'll do a bit of an audio test, make sure your setup works, and we can do some bit of planning. But we do love having guests on the show like Alex. Alex, thank you so much for being on the show this week.
Hey, it's great fun, and it's been great to do it with the audience live as well.
Yeah, it's been really, I'm really enjoying that. I'm hoping we could do more of it. And if you want to help the podcast out in other ways, you can subscribe to us on your platform of choice. Follow us here on Twitch. Got to get partnered so we can run some fucking ads or whatever it is. I don't know. I don't know. Leave us a review. Tell your friends. Word of mouth is always the biggest thing for us. You know, just getting the podcast out there, talking about what we talk about, and to other, especially in boosting sessions, I always talk about it. Especially, you know, my Gears of War group are fucking sick of hearing about it, so I'm going to move on to my Ghost Recon group. They're going to start hearing about it as well. And we're also on YouTube and Patreon. You guys understand how all that works. I mean, you've gotten to the end of a podcast, you know what the rate, review, subscribe algorithm is. If you want to get in contact with me, you can find me on Neomaster on everything. True Achievements, Xbox. I'm Neomaster 2005 on Twitch, but I don't stream all that much. And that's pretty much it. Cameron, what about you?
You can catch me on Shadowless Edge on Xbox TA. Pretty much managing the Real Gamerscore Twitter and I guess Twitch now. We'll see how this goes in the long run. I want to mess around with a few ideas as well. And pretty much just get your feedback on this overlay and that kind of stuff as well. And
Cameron's put a lot of hard work into this overlay and all this setup, so give him some kudos to start with, and any constructive feedback would be greatly appreciated, because he's done a fucking great job.
I mean, I want us to get to the point that we might even be able to chuck on some game streams again.
That would be cool. That would be really cool.
Alex, what about you?
Best place to find me is the Discord. I'm AlexRD. I've got the same grass symbol you can see right now if you're in the live stream. Just come find AlexRD on the Discord.
Well, fantastic. So I think we'll wrap up the show then. Thank you for being here. We will catch you guys next week. Peace.
Bye all.
Catches.
This is the part, Cameron, where you fade to black.